What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 11 PR Chapter 176, Ishida Uryu is on the list, a future that Yuha cannot see through. Is there a special trick? Tōshirō outside the video felt incredible, knowing that Yasuke's vitality is already very tenacious. As a result, after his death, the power of the poison ball increased. What an insidious guy. Quinnies are indeed difficult to deal with, especially those with special abilities. Sajin Kashiwamura frowned. Although the problem Yasuke left was difficult to solve, he believed that with Urahara Kazuki here, it would be able to be solved. Urahara Kazuki has nothing to do now. Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled coldly. Opening a path is already the most perfect strategy he can make. With the enhancement of the poison ball, I want to see what you can do. His current mood is the same as Yasuke's before he died. As a special agent with a high IQ, can he cope with this situation? Invisible Empire. Oh my god, Yasuke, are you going to die now? It's so boring. Bambietta shook her head, boredom written all over her face. Now it's better. Yuhabach's personal guards were completely wiped out. I was attacked by Yinbi. What can I do? Yasuke was helpless. If his heart hadn't been taken out or even crushed, he wouldn't have died. It's not important. Yasuke didn't let his opponent escape. This is a blessing in misfortune. Gerald looked at Yasuke indifferently. Although he failed on the surface, he was able to pull 2 backers. Consider it a complete failure. Pepe snorted coldly. Do you think that with Urahara Kazuki here, Yasuke's poison ball can kill them? You are so naive. Pepe, are you too naive to think that my poison ball can't kill them? Yasuke spread his hands. Return to the video screen. Urahara Kazuki's eyes were heavy, and he knew that these poisonous fogs were Yasuke's last dance after his death. He is bound to drag himself and Grimmjow into the water. At this time, Grimmjow's body could no longer withstand the poison ball and became abnormal. Damn it, this poisonous gas can defeat me 14? Although his body couldn't bear it, Grimmjow was very tough-mouthed. After all, he was very face-saving. But this high concentration of poisonous gas is no joke. It's really surprising. One of the 5 possibilities he once said has really appeared. Nilu looked at the poison ball in surprise. She felt that there were almost 4 Ryotsu inside, and she would have to go back and forth at least twice to save everyone. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the field. That's the entrance. What a small crack. Nilu was very surprised. Actually, I wanted to go in with Ichigo. She lowered her head, but there were some factors she couldn't decide. After a brief hesitation, she flew towards the entrance of the poison ball field. Urahara Kazuki in the poison ball was helpless, but had no choice. Because I can only do this one step. I can only do this. Sorry, I stopped halfway. The rest is up to you, Kurosaki, Kuchiki. The video ends here. Open black lens bracket Urahara Kazuki's Yasuke, victory, close black lens bracket. At the same time, Kazuki's achievements also appeared on the big screen. Let me just say, there is nothing this guy can do. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was a little gloating, and he was very happy to see Urahara Kazuki helpless. Captain Nirvana, at least Urahara Kazuki is still our partner. You don't have to be so happy. Kashiwamura Sajin squinted at Kurotsuchi Mayuri, somewhat dissatisfied with his attitude. Kyoraku Shunsui shook his head and said solemnly, but what Yasuke did is truly absolute. Even Urahara can't solve it. In the end, we still have to rely on Arrancar. That Arrancar is a guy who has a very good relationship with Kurosaki Ichigo, right? Sui Feng was a little surprised. No wonder Nilu would help Urahara Kazuki. Yes, but the last time she appeared, she was a little girl, right? Why did she turn into a big girl in the picture? Kyoraku Shunsui suddenly opened his eyes wide, revealing a look of color. If Sui Feng hadn't said anything, he really wouldn't have noticed. It should be the state after returning to the blade, but there are 2 Arrancars helping Ura. It seems that he has many methods. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled faintly. Urahara Kazuki has already guessed this result. Tōshirō scratched his head in surprise. According to Nilu's mouth, Urahara Kazuki had anticipated 5 possibilities. Could it be that in addition to the enhancement of the field of Yasuke's death poison ball, are there other possible situations that may occur? It seems that Mr. Urahara has no choice, but in fact he has already won. Female Arrancar is the best proof. Rukia said firmly, Mr. Puyuan's ability is only ranked 14th, so he is ranked ahead of him. Who are these 13 people? At the same time, the 13th place on the combat power list has been announced. 13th on the combat power list, Ishida Uryu. Name: Ishida Uryu. Power: Invisible Empire. Identity: Quincy. Ability: Holy Letter A. Complete Opposition. Antithesis. Ix. 95 Defense. 98 Speed. $96. 95 Vitality. 96 Ryotsu. 97. Combat Strength. 2,200,000 Ah. QTQ. Ishida, can you be ranked in front of Mr. Urahara? Is it a mistake? This is too fake? Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes almost popped out of his head. Having the same reaction as him was Abarai Renji. The 2 of them didn't believe this fact at all. HMPH. Ishida Uryu stroked the frame of his glasses, snorted coldly, and his lips filled with tears. Isn't it only 13th place? What's so surprising? It's such a pity that I didn't even make it into the top 10. Stop pretending, kid. Kurosaki Ichigo glanced at Ishida Uryu with contempt, and then carefully observed the information on the panel. When he saw the power column, his body shook violently. Invisible Empire. Ishida Uryu, have you really joined the Invisible Empire? There was indeed a scene of Ishida Uryu appearing next to Yuhabach before, but I didn't expect him to actually enter the organization. I must join Yuhabach, otherwise there will be no way to take revenge. Ishida Uryu's eyes flashed with determination. I'm not saying that your betrayal is true. I'm just curious. Since it was a fake joining the Invisible Empire, why does the power on the panel still show the Invisible Empire? This is difficult for Ichigo to understand. Idiot, of course this is the best. After Renji figured it out, he cursed at Kurosaki Ichigo. You can't display the word traitor on it. The ability of the holy text is completely opposite. Sato frowned slightly. It seems that Ishida has been given the ability by Yuhabach, and the sequence is actually the first. Although he understands that the holy writing abilities are not necessarily ranked according to sequence, the initial sequence ability is definitely very special. It seems right, because Yuhabach gave me a certain ability, so my power is the Invisible Empire. Ishida Uryu explained. Let me tell you, based on your own ability, how could you be ranked in front of Mr. Urigen? It turns out that the power given to you by that guy Yuhabach made you rank 13th. Kurosaki Ichigo said, waving his hands. There was a hint of luck in his eyes. Good guy. I really thought that Ishida Uryu could grow to such a terrifying level in the future, but in the end, he relied on external forces. But no matter where the ability comes from, Ishida Uryu's ranking is real. At this time, Ichigo suddenly became serious, stared at Ishida Uryu, and said, Ishida, in the future you will be standing on the land of the Invisible Empire, on the side of darkness. If you face Shinigami in the future, or me, what should you do? This sentence stopped Ishida Uryu. He stood there in a daze. He had never seen Kurosaki Ichigo so serious, and he was a little uncomfortable with it. But this problem is inevitable. Since he is on the opposite side, what will he do? Ishida Uryu hesitated. He had not yet thought about how to answer this question. Since it's for revenge, there will definitely be a price to pay, or other people's misunderstandings, or someone will be hurt, but I have to accept these. I have to accept it no matter what. He gave this answer, then he fell into deep thought. Of course, if the video hadn't appeared and he learned that he had joined the Invisible Empire, he would have doubted himself. My future self must know that Yuhabach will soon become the master of the new world. With Yuhabach's ability and the fighting power of his men, no one can match him. I am absolutely clear that Yuha has the ability to be holy and omniscient, so the purpose of joining the Quincy camp is also very simple. He is willing to be loyal to his race and king, and at the same time, with the help of Yuha's power, he can rebuild the world order, or even eliminate the virtual existence. After all, except for Kurosaki Ichigo and Rukia, he doesn't have any affection for Shinigami, and he doesn't care about Shinigami's safety. Yes, I understand. Kurosaki Ichigo nodded silently. He understood Ishida Uryu's determination and looked at him with a sharp look. If you hurt my friends, I will never let you go. Ishida Uryu has his reasons, but he also has people he needs to protect. Let's see if you have this ability. Ishida Uryu suddenly sneered, instantly breaking the solemn atmosphere. Seeing this, Ichigo cursed angrily. Baga, you're showing off again, aren't you? Ishida's house. Ishida Ryushin frowned after looking at Ishida Uryu's message. He had some difficulty understanding Uryu's thoughts. Was he a real traitor, or was he an undercover agent who wanted to destroy Yuhabach? Uryu should have something he wants to find out, but if it's for Katagiri. Ishida Ryugen paused, then what he's doing is too foolish. After Katagiri's death, he never stopped investigating the cause of his death. Not to mention whether it is feasible to be an undercover agent, you must know that Yuhabach has the ability to be omniscient and omnipotent. Ishida Ryushin, a Quincy, has already investigated this clearly. If Ishida Uryu is really an undercover agent, his future will definitely be spied on by Yuhabach. But Yuhabach also gave Ishida the ability to write the Uryu sacred letters. Uryu, do you really want to lead the new world with Yuhabach? Ishida Ryujun doesn't know Uryu's inner thoughts at this moment, but the future Uryu in the video definitely has such plans. Invisible Empire. 393. What's going on? Why would your majesty give this guy abilities? Masuko scratched his head and didn't understand. At first he saw a strange face in the video, but he didn't take it to heart at the time. After all, it is normal for members of the Star Knights to die and add new blood. But at this stage, he already knows the details of Ishida Uryu. The holy text is even completely opposite. Maskiller Belsi slammed the table with a very dissatisfied look on his face. I have followed Yuhabach for many years, but I have never been able to claim the power of Holy Word A. The Quincy who appeared later gained such power so easily. Don't say it's Belsi, right? The other members of the corps couldn't stand it either. It's really abominable. Your Majesty is so fond of Ishida Uryu? Asenet was jealous. Although the holy text did not explicitly arrange the strength in sequence, A and B were compared. A more special sacred text. You must know that Yuhabach's omniscience and omnipotence are also a. That guy must be an undercover agent. Masuko became anxious and yelled angrily. He was originally an accomplice of Kurosaki Ichigo. Although he was born a Quincy, he is your majesty's enemy. That's not necessarily true. His majesty is invincible. If Ishida Uryu was not stupid, he would never join forces with Shinigami to deal with his majesty. That would be seeking death, Robert said solemnly. 1. Besides, the grievances between Shinigami and our Quincy are not so easy to eliminate. Ishida Uryu has the blood of our Quincy, and he has a stand. That makes sense. Masuko nodded as if he understood. Besides, if he is really a traitor, his majesty will definitely be able to find out, let alone grant him the ability to write holy words. Interesting. The addition of new blood will definitely make it very interesting, right, Hazard? Busby looked at Hazard with a meaningful smile. Possessing the holy letter A means that Ishida Uryu's status may surpass Hazard. And Hazard is now the #1 leader in Yuhabach. Maybe he will not be passed down so safely in the future. Hazard was very calm. Since it is his majesty's choice, we just need to follow it. There is no meaning in saying so many useless words. On the throne, Ishida Uryu. The only surviving hybrid Quincy, so interesting. The corners of Yuhabach's mouth raised slightly. The hybrid Quincy who surpassed, holy, and survived, Ishida Uryu must be a unique existence in history. He has something beyond my power. Can't I see through his future? Chapter 177, Zaraki and Nirvana's rivals. Uryu's ability is revealed. Although you are ranked 13th, your attack power attribute is too low. Kurosaki Ichigo glanced at Ishida Uryu. Judging from the attribute panel of Ishida Uryu, the attack power is 95, which looks very high. But he is ranked 13th in combat power. From this point of view, the attack power of 95 is indeed not high. After all, Ishida Uryu has a single attack method, and most of his moves are accomplished by relying on divine destruction. As a group shooter, the attack power is lower, which is reasonable. Isn't 95 high? You're too ambitious, Kurosaki Ichigo. Ishida Uryu doesn't think 95 is low. And his ability should not be limited to attack power. Didn't you see that my defense attribute is 98? There have been so many people there, but only my defense has reached 98. Ishida Uryu is also quite curious. His speed is 96 and his intelligence is within a reasonable range, but why is his defense so high? Could it be that the power given to me by Yuhabach is a tank type? I think you're made to be beaten, that's why your defense is so high. Kurosaki Ichigo grinned and said. However, at this time, the picture was already playing on the big screen. Ishida Uryu and Inoue Orihime walked on the streets of Seirei. Suddenly, they were blocked by a drinking Shinigami. Aramaki Makizo looked at the two people wearing Death Tyrant uniforms and asked, "What are you doing here? What division are you in?" Ishida Uryu and Inoue Orihime stopped and hesitated. They're from the 11th division. Aramaki Makizo was stunned for a moment. That's strange, I'm also in the 11th squadron. This is the first time I've heard that our 11th squadron, which is specifically responsible for fighting, would have someone wandering around without Zanpakuto. He walked towards the two men unsteadily, already realizing that these two people were traveling accidents. Oops, does each team have its own characteristics? Ishida Uryu looked flustered. He originally wanted to form a random team, but he ran into it. At this time, Aramaki Makizo grabbed Inoue Orihime's death armor, then looked at the team seal inside, and asked, "This is the team seal of the 12th division, not ours. No wonder I haven't seen it before. Who exactly are you? Damn it, have you exposed your identity again? There's nothing we can do about it." Just as Ishida Uryu was about to break the jar, he suddenly hit Aramaki Makizo on the head with a hammer, and the latter fainted to the ground. The person who did it was a member of the 12th division. It's really dangerous, you too. You're not injured, are you? I just met a guy who doubted his comrades. He's really an outrageous guy. The team members looked at Aramaki Makizo and seemed to understand. This guy is drunk. Thank you. Inoue Orihime stepped forward to apologize. We are all from Division 12, so it's natural for you to do so. The team member responded with a smile. These people always like to cause trouble for the team next to ours. Damn it, it's normal to forget to bring a knife in a hurry. Come on, let's take you to the team meeting. With that said, they were about to lead the two of them away. Seirei, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, your team members are really discerning, and they actually treat their enemies as partners. Zaraki Kenpachi glared at Kurotsuchi Mayuri angrily. Although Aramaki Makizo is an ordinary soldier, he is at least a member of the 11th squadron. However, the team members were beaten because of suspicion of travel troubles. This was both public and private, and Zaraki Kenpachi couldn't bear it. Oh, Zaraki, you guys usually go too far. It's normal for the team members to have some minor grievances. As soon as he heard Zaraki Kenpachi throwing the blame on himself, Kurotsuchi Mayuri felt a little unhappy. What does it mean to treat an enemy as a partner? If you don't accept it, let's have a fight. Forget it, there's no point in fighting someone like you, Kenpachi said, and that was it. Invisible Empire. You see, this Ishida Uryu is good at hiding his identity. If he joins us in the future, he will definitely be an undercover agent, Masuko said with a frown. Is it because Ishida Uryu is good at hiding his identity that he was not discovered? Asina glanced at Masuko. They're obviously Shinigami from the 12th Division, and they all look like pig brains. You didn't let Ishida Uryu reveal his identity. That's right. Giselle nodded in agreement. As a Quincy, I can tell at a glance that there is something wrong with those two sneaky guys. There are so many Shinigami, but I can't even tell. It's really enough. Retarded. Bambietta grinned. Shinigami is trash. Return to the video screen. Facing such a kind member of the 12th Division, Ishida Uryu had doubts. In the situation just now, isn't it strange that they came out to save us? Even though they were drunk, what the person said just now is reasonable, but why did they come to rescue us? Inoue, stay away. Suddenly, Ishida Uryu rushes towards Inoue Orihime. The next moment, a violent explosion suddenly occurred. What's this? The team members were also surprised and didn't know what happened. However, Kurotsuchi Mayuri appears next to him, holding the switch of the human suicide bomb. Captain, this is different from what you said. Our task should just be to say hello to them and then take them to the team building. The surviving team members rushed to Kurotsuchi Mayuri with questions. This is not possible, because how can we let the bombs go back to our hands again? Kurotsuchi Mayuri was so ruthless that she pressed the button again, and the Shinigami exploded. HMPH, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, you are so cruel, you won't even spare your own men. Zaraki Kenpachi outside the video glanced at Kurotsuchi Mayuri coldly. Although this has happened, Zaraki Kenpachi is very disgusted with this approach. As the captain of the 11th Division, I am indeed a bit belligerent, but my opponents are not so cruel. It's all for experiments. Kurotsuchi Mayuri showed no intention of repenting at all. She spread her hands and said with a nonchalant look on her face, I did this all for Seirei. He also learned in the previous video that his behavior would be summoned by Room 46 in the near future, but he would not be punished. Both he and Shinigami looked at him with disdain, but after all, it was Kurotsuchi Mayuri's own subordinates who died, and they had no right to interrupt. This world. It's so abominable. A soldier's life is not his life, right? When Kurosaki Ichigo saw this scene, he became furious. Perhaps because he has taken stock of so many future things, he now has some feelings for Shinigami. He knew the outcome of the battle between Ishida Uryu and Kurotsuchi Mayuri before, but not the process. I didn't expect Kurotsuchi Mayuri to be so evil, disgusting Shinigami. Ishida Uryu's eyes were different. He was not sympathizing with the dead Shinigami, but feeling sorry for them. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is also my most hated Shinigami, even as much as Byakuya Kuchiki. Kurosaki Ichigo said with clenched fists. What are you kidding about? What are you dissatisfied with our captain? Just tell me, there's no need to gossip behind our backs, right? When Renji heard Ichigo's words, he immediately became furious. What does Byakuya Kuchiki have to do with you, just because he is your captain? Ichigo curled his lips and said. You deserve a beating, right? Just fight, whoever is afraid of whom. Return to the video screen. The explosion caused by the team members did not harm Ishida Uryu and Inoue Orihime. Because a shield blocked the two of them. Thank you, if Ishida hadn't stopped me, I would. Inoue Orihime fell to his knees, very panicked. No, what saved us was the result of your practice, Inoue. The others, where are the others? Orihime was worried about the safety of the others. Unfortunately, Ishida Uryu looked lonely. Hearing this result, Inoue Orihime felt very painful and lowered his head and sobbed. But you shouldn't feel heartache about this. Ishida Uryu turned to look at Kurotsuchi Mayuri with a hard look. You should be the one who should feel heartache, it's you. This is really an interesting move. Kurotsuchi Mayuri raised her hand and looked at the broken shield. That shield is the move of the girl behind you, right? I don't want to answer you. That's really interesting. Kurotsuchi Mayuri took 2 steps forward, obviously interested. This is the first time I've seen this kind of move. How about it, girl? Are you interested in using it as research material for me? Stop joking. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's appearance made Ishida Uryu very unhappy. He yelled, I told you I'm not going to answer you. Come to me and I will never treat you badly. Don't worry, I am very gentle towards women. Kurotsuchi Mayuri ignored Ishida Uryu. At this time, Aramaki Makizo woke up and saw Inoue Orihime crying to him. He was a little confused. Why are you crying to me? Is it fear? No. If you are afraid, there is no need to risk your life to save me. Then why are you crying for those who died just now? Aramaki Makizo didn't understand why Inoue Orihime saved him. The two were enemies, and saving herself would do her no good. By the way, then I will treat you with the highest level of treatment. I will take potions 8 times a day and perform mechanical experiments up to 5 times. Kurotsuchi Mayuri walked towards Inoue Orihime and said as he walked. Even if I transform, I will how about trying to avoid things that endanger your life? As a research subject, this is exceptional treatment. However, at this time, Ishida Uryu had already used the spirit beam to gather the spirit light arrows and aimed them at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Oh, it's a Quincy. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's eyes shone. I haven't seen a living individual for several years, but I'm sorry, my research on you is over. I'm no longer interested in you, get out of the way. Is the research over? When Ishida Uryu heard this, he was very confused and asked. What does this mean? Who are you? What? You didn't even investigate the accident and just broke into the opponent's base camp. This is so ill-considered. Kurotsuchi Mayuri said lightly. At least the 13 people standing at the top, at least you have to remember it in your mind, right? Captain of the 12th Division and Director of the second generation of the Technology Development Bureau, Niri. Suddenly, an extremely oppressive Ryotsu made Ishida Uryu breathless. It doesn't matter if you don't remember, you will know everything soon anyway. Inoue, run away quickly. Ishida Uryu understood that the opponent in front of him was not that easy to deal with, and quickly let Inoue Orihime escape. No, I want to fight too. Orihime doesn't want to be a soldier. However, at this time, Aramaki Makizo got up and prepared to run away. Hey! Guys over there, who are you from the 11th Division? Take Inoue and escape from here. Ishida Uryu shouted to Aramaki Makizo. Are you kidding? Why me? You don't want to die, right? If you wait any longer, you will be involved. Even if you use all your strength, you have to take her away, otherwise, I will shoot you to death. Aramaki Makizo had no choice but to escape with Inoue Orihime on his back. Seirei. Fortunately, Araki was not dead at that time, otherwise, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, you would be in trouble. Zaraki Kenpachi looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri with a fierce look. Whether Shinigami of the 12th Division dies or not has nothing to do with him. If the members of the 11th Division are involved, then he will never sit idly by. Oh, Zaraki, by helping the traveler escape, isn't your team also committing a serious crime? Kurotsuchi Mayuri did his part. Hey, Captain Ni, Captain Zaraki, don't quarrel over these things. Inoue Orihime and we will have some ties in the future anyway, and we are not enemies. Kyoraku Shunsui stepped forward to smooth things over. In the picture, Kurotsuchi Mayuri glared at Aramaki Makizo with an evil expression. Did I say I could let them escape? He stretched out his arm, and his forearm and palm separated from his body, grabbing at the two of them. But suddenly, Ishida Uryu's spirit light arrow shot towards his arm and blocked it. Taking this opportunity, Aramaki Makizo and Inoue Orihime walked away. Then did I say you could chase me? Ishida Uryu glared at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Oh my, it takes a lot of effort to train like this, right? Kurotsuchi Mayuri broke her arm, then injected a flesh filler to grow a new arm. It hurts so much that my head almost melts. Ishida Uryu was so frightened when he saw this scene that he clenched his bow and arrow and pointed at Kurotsuchi Mayuri again. It seems that the girl escaped. Forget it, as long as I have one of her hairs, I can track her. Kurotsuchi Mayuri moved her new arms, looking crazy. The truth is, catch her quickly, we can take care of her. I have thoroughly researched it, and every second of it makes me feel precious. Damn monster. Ishida Uryu yelled in his heart. There are two enemies. If this Nirvana is the captain, is the woman behind her the adjutant? Even if his commander was pointed at by a bow and arrow, he didn't react at all. Does that mean that the woman's combat effectiveness is very low? Ishida Uryu planned to start with the captain. An official script light arrow suddenly shot at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Although this blow had the property of turning back, Kurotsuchi Mayuri appeared beside him in the blink of an eye, and said with a sinister smile. The movements are quite flexible, whether it is the previous move or the current move, they're all called flying sickle legs, right? Chapter 178, Uryu's Chaotic Puppet, The Power of the Successor. Kurotsuchi Mayuri has already seen Ishida Uryu's move, using the spirit particles formed under the feet to move at high speed as the advanced step of a Quincy, right? He was a little surprised that a young man like Ishida Uryu could actually do this kind of move. You're not bad, you seem to be quite talented. After Kurotsuchi Mayuri praised her, she suddenly became serious. However, it makes me dodge back and forth, which is still a bit troublesome. I have to capture the girl for research later, but it's very busy. So now he plans to take the easiest way. Slowly pulling out Zanpakuto, he said with a hard look. Kill you. Then purple Ryotsu burst out from Kurotsuchi Mayuri's body. Open your claws and kill Kaisaidagarba. It's just a Shikai. Zanpakuto has transformed into a weirdly shaped golden trident. This picture really shocked Ishida Uryu. What is the ability? If it is the type that absorbs my attacks, then I can't attack. Ishida Uryu was a little panicked at this time and didn't know what to do. However, at this time, Nienmu suddenly stepped forward, grabbed Ishida Uryu's arrow, and pushed it from the roof to the lower floor. Is it possible? Ishida Uryu's eyes were as wide as bells, and he saw Kurotsuchi Mayuri heading straight for him. The next moment, Bodhisattva Jizo swung out, Ni Yinmeng's body was instantly cut, and Uryu was also injured. Seirei. No, is Captain Nirvana still so cruel to Nemu? Rangaku was a little unbelievable, because she had never seen this battle process. Unexpectedly, Kurotsuchi Mayuri actually used Nirvana as a tool. Of course, this situation would be easy for her to understand if she hadn't taken stock of Kurotsuchi Mayuri before. After all, Nirvana was created by Kurotsuchi Mayuri. But now everyone knows how important Nirvana is to Kurotsuchi Mayuri, even treating her as her own daughter. Why really didn't expect this cruel picture. What's the big deal? That guy Ishida Uryu knows how to fly, and I don't want to waste time. Besides, Nemu came forward on her own initiative, and I didn't instigate her, right, Nemu? Kurotsuchi Mayuri said with an indifferent face, and turned to look at Niameng. Yes, Lord Yuli. Niameng nodded and said, although we can't control it, this approach is really cruel. Kashiwamura Sajin grinned. Kurotsuchi Mayuri waved her hand and smiled. You really don't care about 787-27. Return to the video screen. Ishida Uryu was confused and didn't know why this happened. Isn't that woman a companion? Why did she even hurt her companion? Kurotsuchi Mayuri walked up to the panting Miyumi, knocked her down with one punch, and cursed. Idiot, didn't I tell you that even if your arm is cut off, you can't let go? I'm very sorry. Ni and Meng struggled to support her body and apologized humbly. Forget it, I had no hope for you in the first place, but now, it seems that I can handle it by strangling the baby. Kurotsuchi Mayuri turned to look at Ishida Uryu who was standing aside. Uryu had a gash on his shoulder, and it was very painful. He had no doubts now, and he was sure that Kurotsuchi Mayuri would not even spare his subordinates in order to chop him. You've been sweating a lot. Are you in pain? You didn't even say a word. You really can hold it back. It's such an incredible mental strength. Kurotsuchi Mayuri said coldly. This shouldn't be the first time you've been slashed with a knife, right? This is the second time. Oh, having more experience is a good thing. As soon as Kurotsuchi Mayuri became interested, she was disturbed by the painful voice of Ni Yinmu beside her. It's really noisy. I'm sorry, Master Yuli, please give me the flesh supplement. Ni Niameng prayed. The wound seems to have reached deep into the lungs. If it goes on, I will not be able to maintain my body functions. Hearing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri strode to Ni Yinmu's side and kicked him. And scolded. You guys, are you kidding me? Your body is only injured to this extent. Isn't it okay? Stop, what are you doing? Ishida Uryu, an outsider, couldn't stand it anymore. Aren't you friends? If this continues, she will really die. Kurotsuchi Mayuri picked up Nyanmu and turned to glance at Ishida Uryu. Do you want me to? She will die from such a small injury. Will the body I made lose its functions like this? You have to have a certain level to play with me. The body you made? That's right, I'll tell you her name, Nirvana. Kurotsuchi Mayuri explained. It was made by me combining the essence of the Rikutsu technique and the Jisul technique. It's my work. Throw away your what a disgusting sense of justice. How he wants to deal with Nirvana, Ishida Uryu is not qualified to intervene. As he said that, he punched Niameng in the abdomen. Stop. Ishida Uryu wanted to stop, but found that his arms could not move. You didn't realize it until now. You are really slow. Kurotsuchi Mayuri raised his hand to kill Jizo, making the person who was chopped down unable to move his limbs as my ability to kill Jizo. Is it the paralyzing poison? Don't be ridiculous, it's not that old-fashioned. Among the countless signals sent from your head, it only chooses to cut off the signals that move your limbs. Such a high-level drug is self-synthesized. This is not paralysis. It only takes away the movement of your limbs. Action, that is to say. He stabbed Ishida Uryu's body with Jishoku Jizo, and the latter roared. The pain is still there. No matter how insignificant the pain is, you can still feel it, Kurotsuchi Mayuri said. Suya Palace. It's just a little trick. I don't think anyone can make this kind of poison. Zale Aporo smiled contemptuously. At this time, Ishida Uryu was just an inconspicuous guy, so it was normal to use this little trick against him. It's indeed a little trick. It won't work on us anyway, but it can just deal with Ishida Uryu. Yami spread his hands and said, and Ishida Uryu is trash in the first place. I can crush him to death with one hand, isn't it? Zale Aporo agreed. If Kurotsuchi Mayuri had not gone to the battle at that time, he would have killed Ishida Uryu and Aburai Renji. The video continues. Hey, Yinmeng, get up quickly, M. Kurotsuchi Mayuri shouted at Nemu. Come and finish him off, Nemu? Seeing Nemu lying on the ground indifferently, Kurotsuchi Mayuri realized that she too had been slashed, so she couldn't move. Damn, useless guy. He walked to Ni Yinmeng's side, picked up the Jisha Kayasaitagarba and pointed it at the latter. Stop. Ishida Uryu's voice interrupted Kurotsuchi Mayuri again. He turned his head and looked at Ishida Uryu. I told you to stop. Although Ishida Uryu is very weak, the look in his eyes is very firm. You are really annoying. When a girl is injured, even if she is an enemy, you will sympathize with her. Is this what you Quincy are proud of? Kurotsuchi Mayuri sneered. What? I don't like it very much, because each of you will keep repeating these words before you die. Even if you block the Quincy's self-esteem, you can't do that. Even if you block the Quincy's self-esteem, you won't be allowed to do that. It's really verbose. Ah, everyone does. Kurotsuchi Mayuri became furious for no apparent reason. Ishida Uryu was confused and at a loss. Anyway, as long as I kill Kayasaitagarba with Bodhisattva, any resistance will be meaningless. Suddenly, he stopped. Wait a minute, the next step is my difficult talk. When I became the director of the Technology Development Bureau, Quincy was already a rare breed. The remaining survivors are also under his surveillance. He ordered the Shinigami responsible for surveillance to deliberately delay rescue, and then guess their souls. How hard it is. You know, although I work so hard, Bed doesn't have a lot of research funds. The last one is a dirty old man. He keeps chanting the name of his disciple or his grandson. It really makes me feel disgusted. Hearing this, Ishida Uryu suddenly became furious. Obviously he already knows that the old man is his grandfather Ishida Sozuru. Want to see a photo? Kurotsuchi Mayuri was still dancing in the minefield and took out a photo, but this is already a photo after research. The prototype can no longer be seen clearly. Ishida Uryu suddenly panicked after seeing Ishida Sojin in the photo. Memories of myself and my grandfather flooded into my mind. What is the disciple's name? Kurotsuchi Mayuri turned away and scratched his head. I can't remember it. I have no interest in what I studied after. He didn't notice at all that at this time, Ishida Uryu behind him had burst out with a terrifying Ryotsu. Soon, the pressure of Ryotsu caused Kurotsuchi Mayuri to notice something unusual. Let me tell you the name of my disciple. Ishida Uryu has stood up with a solemn expression. The disciple's name is Uryu. Ishida Uryu. This man is called Ishida Muneksen. He is my master and actually my biological grandfather. Oh, so what? Kurotsuchi Mayuri hasn't realized the seriousness of the matter yet. Fortunately, Inoue is not here. There is really no way for her to witness this battle with her own eyes. If the Quincy's pride is blocked, I will kill you. Uryu's eyes were like those of a hunting beast, determined to kill Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Kurotsuchi Mayuri did not change his mood. He discovered that Ishida Uryu's arm, which was supposed to be unable to move, also started to move. The next moment, Ishida Uryu pulled off his sleeves and wrapped them around his arms. I know, this is a puppet pretending to be indiscriminately. Countless souls sewn into threads are bundled together and connected to parts that cannot move, and they are forced to move like a puppet. Kurotsuchi Mayuri reveals her V***********. Invisible Empire. How come this guy has mastered the holy body at this time? Shiluji was a little surprised. Although this is an ability of Quincy, ordinary Quincy without extremely high talent cannot enter the holy body. And Ishida Uryu can also pretend to be a puppet. The appearance has not changed, but he knows that this is equivalent to the Holy Eucharist. Interesting, no wonder this guy is favored by His Majesty. He is not without merit. Lee Jemba Luo nodded and said. He will definitely become stronger, but based on this ability, it is like defeating Kurotsuchi Mayuri. It is simply naive. After seeing the battle between Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Panita, Bershi did not believe that Ishida Uryu had the ability to fight him. You still have to ask, the result has been decided a long time ago. Ishida Uryu will be killed instantly. Robert said in a deep voice that they did not know the outcome of the battle between the two. Return to the video screen. After using Ishida Uryu in random disguise, the injury on his arm can be ignored. Kurotsuchi Mayuri continued. This is a technique originally created for Quincy who are aging and unable to move their bodies, but still want to fight hollows. Even if the ligaments are severed or the bones are broken, in this move there is no meaning in front of me. Before the body turns into dust, it will always exist for the purpose of fighting. It is the highest combat spiritual art mastered by Quincy. At the same time, Ishida Uryu has completed his evolution, and his temperament is far beyond what he was before. I thought this trick had been lost a long time ago. In fact, among the 2,661 people I have studied, no one can use this trick. I didn't expect you to do it at such a young age. Being able to use it, is this the so-called genius? Kurotsuchi Mayuri frowned, and while she was interested, there was also a hint of jealousy. Genius? I don't want to be described in such cliché terms. Ishida Uryu disagreed. What did you say? My random disguise is not a defensive move, nor is it a clever move. It's just that even if I become a walking zombie, I have to continue fighting until the pain in my heart is lifted. The embodiment of the consciousness of hate. Then I'll accept Revolving Heaven's words. You're just a young boy. Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled delicately. Ishida Uryu didn't speak, but stared at Kurotsuchi Mayuri, and a spirit bow and arrow appeared in his gloves. Very good. It seems that I have become somewhat interested in you. I am not going to kill you anymore. I will bring you back alive and then become my research subject. Kurotsuchi Mayuri pulled out her ears, and then Hashin connected the scythe to her brain and threw it towards Ishida Uryu. Uryu dodges instantly and shoots a bunch of spirit particles in the air, but Kurotsuchi Mayuri dodges it. But Uryu was no match for Kurotsuchi Mayuri. After a few rounds, his body was covered with sword marks. I will try my best not to kill you, but to take you to the research institute. If you don't mind tasting this hellish pain, I will try one of these methods now. 21 Kurotsuchi Mayuri takes back her scythe and turns her ears back. Yulong knew that he was trapped in a trap, and he broke out in cold sweat. He knew that there was a limit to pretending to be a puppet, and he could not continue to do so. I'm sorry, Master, I haven't understood my father's thoughts yet, and I must not be clear about what I really want to protect. However, I think I already know the unforgivable person. Who is it? Thinking, Ishida Uryu raised his bow and arrow. I'm sorry, Master, I will disobey you only this once. He broke the limiter of the sandling glove, and instantly a shocking Ryotsu rushed into the sky. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was doubting life. She stood there unable to understand. What's going on? What is that? Chapter 179, Entering the Invisible Empire, another son of Yuhabach. Suya Palace. What's going on? Why is this guy so powerful? Yami froze on the spot, unable to believe the look of Ishida Uryu in his eyes. Even now, the scene of Ishida Uryu being tortured by Sapporo still comes to mind. Is it possible to have such a powerful power? If it is true, such power can definitely fight against Sapporo. Why wasn't it used at that time? I don't know why. Is Ishida Uryu like this now the final form? Sapporo also didn't understand. He knew more about Shinigami, but he really lacked some information about Quincy. You didn't hear it. Ishida Uryu seemed to be explaining something to his grandfather. They looked like gloves. Noitra noticed this detail. That is, it was after Ishida Uryu took off the gloves that he burst out with such energy. Grimjow frowned slightly, not believing it. Can gloves have such a powerful power? Are you kidding me? Zamari nodded. I don't really believe it either. Return to the video screen. A spirit wing appears on Ishida Uryu's back, and he has the appearance of a complete holy body, and is wearing armor outside his body. What's going on with that look? What's going on with that Ryotsu? Seeing Ishida Uryu like this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri was extremely panicked. This is something beyond his knowledge. I don't know about that kind of thing. At the same time, the surrounding rubble began to slowly dissolve, turning into spirit seeds and being absorbed by Ishida Uryu. It's absorbing the surrounding buildings. All the buildings in Soul Society are made of souls. Can even the wife's combined body be destroyed and forced to be absorbed? Nirvana was a little surprised. This can be said to be a subordinate of Lingza. He shed a cold sweat while looking sharply at Ishida Uryu. This has gone beyond the realm of spiritual beings that humans can possess, boy. However, at this time, Ishida Uryu opened his arms and gathered a bow and arrow in his hands. Raising his hand, an arrow was shot out. Kurotsuchi Mayuri dodges in a hurry, looking like a frustrated competitor. It's so fast, but at this level one still. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was thinking, and suddenly noticed a black shadow appearing in the sky. It was Ishida Uryu falling from the sky. He had already drawn his bow and arrow, aiming it at himself. The spirit sun light arrow shot directly, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri was instantly shot into the ground. The shocking explosion was felt by the entire Seirei. Reality. Uryu, you actually have such a powerful power. Kurosaki Ichigo stared at Ishida Uryu with shock on his face. You must know that you may not be able to win against Kurotsuchi Mayuri. However, at this stage, Ishida Uryu exploded with power that surpassed Kurotsuchi Mayuri. It can also absorb surrounding spirits. This is exactly the same as the Quincy of the Invisible Empire. Cover your face. Ishida Uryu is a member of the Knights of the Star Cross. It's okay, it's not too great, Ishida Uryu said silently while holding his glasses. Just pretend, you only have one move anyway. This battle is probably the highlight of your life. Aburai Renji complained when he saw Ishida Uryu pretending to be awesome. After hitting this blow in the screen, Ishida Uryu landed safely on the ground, his eyes flashed brightly, cry and apologize. Then never appear in front of me again. If you do this, I will let you go. Ishida Uryu knew that killing Shinigami in Seirei would definitely cause unnecessary trouble. If you refuse, I will shoot with 3 times the force. Don't get carried away. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was immediately furious. His right arm was blown off by the attack just now, and blood flowed down. But for him, this is not much harm. You're just a Quincy. How dare you be so arrogant? Well, then I will respond with corresponding power. Kurotsuchi Mayuri said and laughed. Bankai. He tightly grasped the handle of the knife that killed Jizo, and then Zanpakuto slowly turned into a baby monster like a cell reorganization. It was so huge that it crushed the surrounding buildings to pieces. Captain Nirvana, are you using Bankai now? You really embarrass our captain. Kashiwamura Sajin outside the video glanced at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. At this moment, he wanted to say something. What kind of person is your opponent? Just use Bankai. It's not embarrassing for you, but I still feel embarrassed. But he definitely couldn't say this. Oh my, Captain Komamura is 100% sure that I can defeat the holy Ishida Uryu? Kurotsuchi Mayuri spread her hands calmly. That's natural, awesome, I really don't know why such a powerful Captain Komamura was tortured so badly by a female Quincy. At this time, Kiyoraku Shunsui interrupted the two of them. Okay, Captain Nirvana uses Bankai, which can be regarded as respecting Ishida Uryu. After all, the other party has used their strongest moves, so it would be pointless to hide them by yourself. Return to the video screen. What's going on? Then Zanpakuto should have been liberated once. Ishida Uryu was shocked. He didn't know that Zanpakuto could Bankai. Don't you know, there are 2 stages in the liberation of Zanpakuto. The killing of Jizo is the first stage of Zanpakuto, Shikai, but the golden killing of Jizo is the second stage, which is Bankai. Kurotsuchi Mayuri patiently explained. The poison it releases will wipe out everything about you. Immediately afterwards, Saitagarba sprayed out a poisonous mist, which rushed toward Ishida Uryu like a wave. It's a pity that I can't have you as my research subject. Kurotsuchi Mayuri laughed wildly and commanded. Come on. Countless sharp knives suddenly appeared from Jizo's abdomen, and it rushed towards Ishida Uryu. Uryu unhurriedly pulled his bow and arrow, aiming at the centipede like Kayasidagarba. The arrow shot out and exploded. Nearly 100 meters of ground was blasted with a crack. At the same time, a huge hole was penetrated in Kurotsuchi Mayuri's chest. His face was ferocious, and the Jizo in front was even directly split in half. You! Damn Quincy! Kurotsuchi Mayuri raised Zanpakuto, but stabbed him in the neck. The next moment, he turned into a pool of green liquid. What a pity, Quincy, I won't consider using this move until the last moment. Kurotsuchi Mayuri escaped from the crack in the wall. Yulong on the side was shocked when he saw this scene. In order to escape, I still kept such a hand. He pulled up his bow and arrow and wanted to attack again. I can't make any attacks now, but at the same time, no attacks can hurt me. I won't be able to return to my original form from this form within a few days. During this time, I can use this time to return to the laboratory for treatment. Kurotsuchi Mayuri reminded, farewell, Quincy. Ishida Uryu could only watch Kurotsuchi Mayuri slip away, but there was nothing he could do. But if Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't have this means, he would have killed him. Open black lens bracket Ishida Uryu vs Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Victory, close black lens bracket at this time. Ishida Uryu's record appeared on the big screen. Seirei, you were defeated by a Quincy kid who didn't even know Bankai. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, you are so useless. Zaraki Kenpachi snorted at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Don't talk about me, Zaraki. Didn't your battle with Kurosaki Ichigo also fail? Kurotsuchi Mayuri retorted. No, ours is a lose-lose situation at best. It's a draw. How can we be in such a mess like you? Neon Mu saw that Kurotsuchi Mayuri was a little embarrassed, and quickly said, the fact that Ishida Uryu is ranked 13th means that he has talent and potential. Lord Kurotsuchi did not expect that his opponent would have such a power. Failure. Nemu, you don't need to say it. Kurotsuchi Mayuri glared at Nemu. Invisible Empire. What is this? It can turn into liquid? Asinit was very surprised. Does this have life characteristics? Although Kurotsuchi Mayuri is a reformer, is such an exaggeration too outrageous? This guy's methods are almost the same as those of Urahara Kazuki. There are many. Yaskin waved his hand. If he had lost the battle with Benita, I guess Kurotsuchi Mayuri would have used this move to escape. Even if he had no way to attack in this state, he would not be harmed. Escape is absolutely top-notch. Bambietta licked her lips and said with a smile on her face. What's the big deal? If he turns into a liquid, just put it in a bottle and see if he can change back to his original appearance. Kiluji laughed evilly. Hearing this, Giselle clapped her hands and applauded. This is a good idea. I will do it next time. The video continues to play. Ishida's house, library. Ishida Uryu is looking for information. There is no valuable information. He closed the book in his hand, looking disappointed. What are you doing? Suddenly, Ishida's voice came from the door. Dragon string. Ishida Uryu suddenly turned his head and saw Ishida Ryushin standing at the door, staring at him. I should have told you that you cannot enter here without my permission. Long Xian also knew that Uryu wanted to investigate information about the Quincy Soul Society in the town of Hueco Mundo were attacked by unknown forces, and their true identity is probably the Quincy. Ishida Uryu asked questioningly. Logically speaking, we are the only remaining descendants of the Quincy. Do you know something? Ishida Longxian stroked his eyes, closed them slightly, and said in a deep voice. This matter has nothing to do with you, get out. After saying that, he turned around and walked out of the library door. Do you want to escape like this again? Ishida Uryu shouted at Ryushin, dragging out his inner thoughts. I am the last Quincy, and I have the right to know about this incident. There is nothing you want to know here. Ryushin stopped at the door and still didn't want Ishida Uryu to get involved. Looking at Long Xian's leaving figure, Yu Long squatted on the ground, feeling extremely depressed. He wanted to figure out certain things, but when he recalled what Long Xian had just said, he was suddenly startled. Is there nothing here? Could it be that there is information hidden somewhere else? He got up, left the library, and sneaked into Ishida Ryusei's bedroom. Ishida, do you want to investigate the Quincy of the Invisible Empire? Inoue or Hime outside the video looked at Ishida Uryu and said. Probably. Although he didn't know if he could find the information, at that time, the Quincy's attack had already affected Hueco Mundo and Soul Society. If he ignored it, the world would be destroyed sooner or later. Yulong in the picture scanned the desk and found no clues, so he opened the drawer and started rummaging. But suddenly, he stopped. Underneath the desk drawer filled with papers, there is a book with a star. This sign is the representative star of the Quincy. This is the teacher's. Ishida Uryu opened the book and started reading. In order to prevent the two worlds from collapsing, the Shinigami side has repeatedly requested dialogue with the Quincy, but they are constantly rejected, and the world is moving towards collapse step by step, so Soul Society is experiencing. After a long debate, 200 years ago, we finally decided to carry out an anomaly annihilation operation. The two paths are different and cannot work together, and the resentment of the genocide will never disappear. The two are destined to be incompatible. This is the fate of Shinigami and the Quincy. When both are righteous, the regiment will go to war. The books also contain records of Yuhabach's holy events. Don't come in without my permission. Just as Ishida Uryu was fascinated, Ishida Ryuzan appeared at the door. This is the second time. What is going on? Are the things written here true? Yulong stared at Longshan in fear. Then you already know all this, right? The Invisible Empire is called the Majesty. The guy who got off the bed and the mothers matter. Yulong, this has nothing to do with you. Long Xian held up his glasses, his eyes averted. Yulong ran straight out of the bedroom. 1,000 years ago, the Quincy's empire, the Empire of Light, under the banner of destroying the Hollows, opposed and invaded the Soul Society, and was eventually destroyed by Godei 13, and in 200 years. The surviving Quincy are also considered to be the ones who destroyed the cycle of souls. Uryu flipped through the information. We were unilaterally killed by the Shinigami side. In the final analysis, we and the Shinigami are destined to be enemies after all. He thought about what Kurosaki Ichigo said to him and was a little at a loss. Seirei. Ishida Uryu joins the Invisible Empire. I really don't know what the purpose is. He doesn't have a good impression of Shinigami at all. Tōshirō frowned and said. But it's not certain. Maybe he wanted to find out the cause of his mother's death before he lurked around Yuhabach. Rangaku said. At this time, the screen changed. Invisible Imperial Throne. Yuhabach slowly opened his eyes and faced the footsteps and said, Are you back, Hasward? Where's the person I want? Hasward turned around, stepped aside, and said, Please. Immediately, Ishida Uryu, wearing the uniform of the Knights of the Star Cross, walked over. Well done, Ishida Uryu. Yuhabach smiled and said, Come, fight with me, my son. Chapter 180, the second His Majesty, appointed by Yuhabach. Uryu, with this outfit of yours, you really look like a Quincy born and raised in the Invisible Empire. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Ishida Uryu's current appearance and compared it with the video. She has indeed matured a bit, but from the picture, Ishida Uryu really looks like a traitor. However, judging from the previous scene, in which Ishida Uryu searched for the Quincy through Ishida Ryuzan, the probability of Uryu's real rebellion is low. If you change the equipment, it will probably be similar. Ishida Uryu stroked his glasses and said calmly. At this moment, he felt a little excited in his heart, because at this moment, he could not imagine what kind of existence he would be in the Invisible Empire. Moreover, it was Hasward who brought him to the Invisible Empire. He didn't know what happened during that period. Kurosaki Ichigo. If it can be proven that you didn't really join the Invisible Empire, let's see what you will do. Ichigo feels that if he is an undercover agent, he will never do nothing. Helping Shinigami is a matter of course. Even if he is really an undercover agent, he will not do anything to help Shinigami. It is possible to turn back and kill Yuhabach. You don't have to worry about it. Yulong snorted coldly. Invisible Empire. It's really impressive. The blood of the Quincy is flowing in your body. After putting on our clothes, you are just like a member of the Knights. Gerald didn't say anything to this. Outsider shows too much malice. One more person is not necessarily a bad thing. If the time comes, we can deal with Shinigami. Asinat said. Ishida Uryu has always been resentful of Shinigami. He can definitely help. I'm busy. Shout. Do we still need his help? Belch grinned, expressing his incomprehension. Their Quincies are already so powerful. If the Shinigami's abilities were not restrained, Seirei's Shinigami would not be able to defeat the Knights of the Star Cross. Now that we know the information about Shinigami, when the war starts, everyone will be able to avoid and restrain their own Shinigami, and they will basically be invincible. That said, some Shinigami are difficult for anyone to win against. Robert narrowed his eyes slightly, with a worried look on his face. The most representative ones are Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Urahara Kazuki. This is not a big problem. If it were not a sneak attack, I would never have failed. Yasuke waved his hand. Now that I know how I will die in the future, the same thing will never happen again in the future. Bambietta smiled and said, You have forgotten that your situation is only one of the 5 possibilities of Urahara Kazuki, which means there are 4 more possibilities. If it does not happen, you need to die 4 more times. Only then can we defeat him. Don't be ridiculous, I'm defensive, this is impossible, Yasuke retorted to Bambietta. Rijibaro took over. Why don't we just let Ishida Uryu fight Urahara Kazuki or Kurotsuchi Mayuri? Anyway, Ishida Uryu has already defeated Kurotsuchi Mayuri once. Gerald nodded. What a great idea. Return to the video screen. In the Ice Palace of the Invisible Empire, all members offer their crosses. His Majesty Yuhabach. All the members of the Knights of the Star Cross gathered together. They all moved in unison, looked at Yuhabach neatly, and saluted. Knights of the Star Cross, are everyone here? Yuhabach stared at the Quincy below and said in a deep voice. Everyone, I have something to announce. He turned and looked aside. Come here. Then there was the sound of footsteps, and Ishida Uryu walked up to the members of the Knights. Yuhabach is going to introduce Ishida Uryu to the members of the Knights of the Star Cross? It's quite formal. Rangaku outside the video smiled faintly. Ishida Uryu was originally brought here by Hasward, so it is normal for the other members not to know him. After all, we will become teammates in the future, so we must get to know each other. No, it's just that there is an additional member. Why should it be so grand? Baikun Sajin was a little confused. Ishida Uryu is a minor role in the Knights of the Star Cross. As a result, this posture, gathering after gathering, saluting after saluting, was really too grand. The operation is indeed a bit confusing, but this may be the tradition of the Quincy. Tōshirō said lightly. Also, Ishida Uryu can defeat Captain Nirvana, which shows that he has very strong power. A strong person joins the team. As the leader will definitely give you a warm welcome. In the picture, Ishida Uryu, dressed in white, swings his arms and raises his cape. The unruly look on his face seems to be telling all the members of the Star Knights, you are all trash. After seeing Ishida Uryu, the knights immediately exploded. Who is that man? Bambietta's expression was solemn. She had never seen Ishida Uryu before, so she didn't know where this guy came from. Why is he standing on the stage with his majesty? Busby's eyes were also shaken. You know, only Yuhabach and Hazard can stand on the stage, but does this new face actually have such rights? At the same time, Yuhabach began to introduce. He is Ishida Uryu, the last surviving Quincy in this world. Now, I will designate him as my successor. Nani, what is your majesty doing? Robert outside the video was speechless, looking horrified and unbelievable. Why did you designate this guy as the heir? Furthermore, isn't the heir Hazard? Your majesty will not be deceived by Ishida Uryu, right? How can he compete with Hasvald? Belch grinned. Although Yuhabach made the decision, he did not agree with it. The Ishida Uryu in the video must have just met his majesty for the first time. Why did he become his majesty's designated heir? What happened in the middle? Giselle couldn't understand either. Okay, just follow his majesty's will. Hazard's expression did not change. Ishida Uryu became the heir of Yuhabach. For others, there was no loss. At most, they were surprised. For Hazard, who was the heir by default, it was like a blow to the head. But Hazard did not do anything dissatisfied. Humph, Husward, you can really keep your composure. Busby grinned. Hazard ignored him. Since Yuhabach did this, there must be a reason for doing so. Seirei. What? Ishida Uryu was recognized as the heir. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's eyes widened, a little difficult to understand. In this case, wouldn't Ishida Uryu have a godlike status? One person is inferior to 10,000 people. Tōshirō is now sure that Ishida Uryu Jikaku is a traitor. With his supreme status and ability, how could Ishida Uryu resist the temptation? It's really baffling. I thought it was shocking enough for Ishida Uryu to join the Star-Crossed Knights, but he ended up becoming the heir. Shuhei shook his head. The look in Ishida Uryu's eyes didn't look like he was just pretending. Let's see what happens to him after that. We're still not sure yet, Kyoraku Shunsui sighed. This world. Ishida, you guys need to calm down. Kurosaki Ichigo is now a little panicked. He originally believed that Ishida Uryu was an undercover agent, but the current situation made him turbulent and he could no longer believe it. You think so low of me? Ishida Uryu looked solemn. With his current state of mind, he could not empathize with himself in the picture, so he was also very confused. I hope everything is fine. Inoue Orihime looked at Uryu with emotion. Return to the video screen. Hearing Yuhabach announce that Ishida Uryu has become the heir, a member of the Knights of the Star-Cross, he exploded again. What? What did your majesty just say? Your majesty's heir, that man of unknown origin, why? The holy soldiers and the knights were unwilling to accept it. At this time, Busby stood up and shouted at Yuhabach. Please wait, your majesty. He wants an explanation, but a figure instantly appeared in front of him, blocking his way. This man is Hazard. Hugon, what do you mean? Busby glared at Hazard. Seeing this, Yuhabach said, no objections, and no worries. In the future battles, his power. All of you here will have the opportunity to experience it for yourself. I'm done. Although Yuhabach said this, many people were still unconvinced. After Yuhabach left, they gathered together. What on earth are you doing? I have no idea what's going on. Who is that guy? Can anyone explain to me? Explanation? Masco was also confused. The only one who can explain it is His Majesty himself, Nine said calmly. Kangdu was speechless. Damn it, who would approve of it? Busby's face was full of displeasure. At this time, a waiter carrying a wine glass came up to offer wine. Busby flipped it over and said angrily, don't get in the way, didn't I tell you not to want these now? After saying that, Shunpo left. Masco quickly stopped him. Hey, Busby, where are you going? Go to your majesty. I still can't agree with this. I'll go to your majesty to argue. Busby turned around and responded. Idiot, don't go. Do you think his majesty will allow such a thing, Busby? Masco's roar did not stop Busby, who disappeared instantly. Outside of video, there is an invisible empire. That's right, Busby should ask his majesty what's going on. Bambietta spread his hands and said. Although she also wanted to know the reason, Busby was the one who suffered the first blow, and she was not in the same room. Bumby, you are trying to kill Busby. You also know his majesty's temper. If he takes the liberty to ask, your majesty will never let him go. Masco looked at Busby and said. Even if I am punished by his majesty, I have to ask clearly. I cannot see Ishida Uryu, the guy who once sided with Shinigami, become my majesty. Busby frowned, his eyes fierce. In the picture, Busby is blocked by Hazard, Ugalin. Busby paused. Where are you going, Busby? You, on the other hand, aren't you going anywhere now? I have always believed that His Majesty's heir should be you. Busby stared at Hazard. If you were to be the heir, most members of the Knights would recognize it. But you act as if nothing happened. Your Majesty's will is everything. Hazard said without changing his expression. There is no room for a humble person like me to interfere. Bah, you loser. Busby cursed in disgust. It's really disappointing. In this case, give up that chair now. He became ecstatic and said, if you don't care if you give the chair to that country bumpkin, just let me take it away. Calm down, Busby. I'm quite calm now. You should be calmer than now. Two people argue at that time. There was sudden movement around. The two looked at the same time and found Yaskin leaning against the wall, quietly listening to their conversation. It's true that I can't calm down, Yaskin said and clapped his hands. You didn't listen at all. Calm down, calm down. 0.8. Nikluvar, what are you doing here? Busby looked at Yaskin and said doubtfully. I'm here to help you. It's not a good idea to use force. Your Majesty doesn't like fighting, and there are still evildoers here. On the other side, Pepe was secretly watching everything happening on the scene with an eye stick. Yaskin broke up the fight again. Stop it, you two, this kind of fighting will not do you any good. He stared at Hazard, and his voice became much lower, especially. It will only do harm to you, you should know that, right? The next emperor? It seems that they are not convinced by you, Ishida. Kurosaki Ichigo outside the video looks at Ishida Uryu first. Faced with this kind of quarrel, he finds it quite interesting. That Hazard was the next emperor before you went. After you went, you just squeezed him away. Renji took over. I really didn't expect that guy turned out to be like this. He is so calm, shouldn't he be the one who should be worried the most? Ishida Uryu shook his head. He had expected the situation where the knights quarreled and refused to accept him, but Hazard was so calm, which was beyond his imagination. Hazard has always been calm. When he was attacking Soul Society, he kept his clothes on and had a cold face. I don't think anything would shock him. Du frowned and said, this kind of person who is calm at every turn is the most terrifying. The Emperor's battle, Ishida, you should be careful. Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes are worried. Although he is usually an enemy, he is still worried. Ishida Uryu smiled slightly. There's nothing to be afraid of. The bigger the wind and waves, the more expensive the fish will be. Chapter 181. Yua's ability is exposed, touching the realm of the soul. Return to the video screen. Yuhabach performed a conferment ceremony on Uryu. He dropped his own blood on the star medal and then bestowed it on Ishida Uryu. This completes the inheritance ceremony. It won't be long before your power begins to awaken. Yuhabach stared at Ishida Uryu. I now give you the holy script, the same a script as mine. Why? Yulong still doesn't understand. Why do you want me to be your heir? Are you confused? Yuhabach gave up. To name me as your heir who suddenly appeared in that way, I think this will cause conflict within the knights. Fortunately, you are not an idiot who just accepts the title. However, you haven't considered it thoroughly enough. As for why I want to designate you as the heir, you should think about it for a while and you will understand. Yulong listened to Yuhabach's words and stood there in a daze, still not understanding. Don't you understand? Yuhabach's expression changed slightly. Ha ha ha, it's so funny. This Yuhabach also said that Ishida Uryu was not an idiot who just accepted the account ban, but after a long time, he still didn't understand what he was thinking. What is this other than an idiot? Outside the video Omeda burst out laughing. This is not shooting himself in the foot. Yuhabach sometimes makes mistakes. Rangaku laughed innocently. Although it was a joke, she could roughly guess the purpose of the watch. As a result, the person involved, Ishida Uryu, didn't understand? Are you really not understanding, or are you just pretending to be confused? No one can know this. Then, let me ask you, Yuhabach planned to give you a hint, Uriong, why are you still alive now? Hearing this, Ishida Uryu's body trembled, and he didn't understand why Yuhabach asked this question suddenly. You understand quickly. Yuhabach saw Ishida Uryu's reaction and smiled faintly. 9 years ago, after I implemented the sanctification, all the half-blood Quincy were wiped out. Except for you. You are the only Quincy in the world who has survived beyond the Holy Realm, so I specially introduce you as the last one who survived. There is something about you that is beyond my power. Yuhabach looked calm. That's why I designated you as my heir. Do you understand, Yulong? Don't worry, come with me. Ishida Uryu was silent for a moment, then said, yes, I will obey your will, your majesty. This world. Uryu, you still have the power to surpass Yuhabach? Kurosaki Ichigo was a little surprised. Yuhabach must be the strongest person at present. What kind of power should it be that surpasses him? Ishida Uryu shook his head. Naturally, he was not sure about this issue. Could it be related to the fact that he did not die under the Holy Order? I don't know, but don't you also have the power of a Quincy in your body? Your mother, Kurosaki Masaki, died because of being holy. That's because her pure blood was contaminated by Kion and she became a mixed blood Quincy. And you should be a mixed blood too, Quincy. In this case, isn't it inappropriate for Yuhabach to say that he is the only surviving half-blood Quincy? Kurosaki-san should be a pure-blooded Quincy. Inoue Orihime looked at Kurosaki Ichigo. Didn't Uncle Kurosaki say that the cause of Aunt's death was not due to the Holy Spirit, but because the Holy Spirit lost her power and was later surrounded? Inoue Orihime didn't have the courage to continue speaking, but several people present understood what she wanted to express. Well, maybe that's the reason. Kurosaki Ichigo nodded, but the power existing in Ishida Uryu's body definitely surpasses his own existence. Return to the video screen. Invisible Empire, in the corridor of the palace. Hazard blocked the path of Ishida Uryu, who was looking for Yuhabach. What's the matter? Hazard stared at Yulong and said in a deep voice, His Majesty Yuhabach has gone to bed. Your Majesty, he will only return to his identity as the father of the Quincy when he goes to bed. He is conserving strength, so we must not prevent His Majesty from going to bed. Yeah, I asked you just now, what's the matter with you? There's no reason to tell you what I want to tell His Majesty, right? Ishida Uryu's attitude was also very tough. Also, you are very different from your appearance during the day. Hazard closed his eyes slightly. Your Majesty and I are two ends of the scale. During the period when Your Majesty resumed his identity as the father of the Quincy, I was given the mask of a ruler. Your Majesty and I are connected. No, it should be said that Your Majesty is connected to all Quincy. It's better to explain it clearly to you first, as the next successor. Hazard began to tell. His Majesty had the ability to give souls to people around him when he was young. Quincy all have this ability, absorbing the surrounding souls to become their own power. Among them, only His Majesty has the opposite ability, that is, the Emperor of Power who can give souls to others. When he was young, he could give his soul to others through touch. Soon after, he found a more powerful method. By directly engraving words that confer power on the other person's soul, he could transfer soul with more profound and powerful power. Give it to the other person. Seirei. Nani, Yuhabach is actually born with such an ability? It's really terrifying. Tōshirō frowned tightly, not daring to elaborate on all this. No wonder he is the ancestor of the Quincy. He was born with the ability to give souls. So, his holy words are unlimited. Kashiwamura Sajin is equally unbelievable. You must know that each member of the Star-Crossed Knights has abilities corresponding to different words. If they really give their souls to each other, then they can really have unlimited inheritance power. It's hard to say, but most of the abilities of the Quincy in the Invisible Empire come from Yuhabach. This is certain. Kyoraku Shunsui shook his head and said. In the video, Ishida Uryu was shocked after hearing Hazard's words. Is it directly imprinted on the soul? Is it possible to do such a thing? Hazard lowered his head and said, Your soul has long been engraved. When you loved His Majesty's blood cup, a part of His Majesty also entered your body. That was the engraving ceremony. Such heavy information shocked Ishida Uryu so much that his pupils almost fell out of shock. What's that look in your eyes? Hazard clicked Ishida Yulong, staring at him with cold eyes. Do you regret it? But it's too late. You probably agreed to our invitation because you wanted to avenge your mother, right? From the moment you accepted our invitation, you had no way out. If all those who have been given the soul of Your Majesty die, that power will be absorbed by Your Majesty, and His Majesty's soul fragments have been scattered throughout Seirei in previous battles. Ishida Uryu was shocked again. His inner thoughts had been seen through, and at this moment, he didn't know where to go. Hazard continued. This war is for His Majesty. We, the Knights of the Star Cross, have touched all Shinigami with His Majesty's soul. Chapter 182, The Final Farewell, The Determination to Leave Everything Behind. What do you mean? What does Hazard mean? Kashiwadun Sajin outside the video suddenly frowned, not understanding what Hazard meant. Was this battle fought for Yuhabach? And the members of the Knights of the Star Cross, before the battle, touched all the Shinigami with the soul of Yuhabach? Doesn't this mean that all battles are premeditated? Captain Komamura, haven't you understood? If we are all touched by the spirit of Yuhabach, as Hazard said, if we die, it will be equivalent to showing our souls to Yuhabach. Tōshirō solves the mystery for Kashiwamura Sajin. Rangaku echoed. This is why Hazard said that this battle is for Yuhabach. Whether it is the Quincy or Shinigami, as long as someone from either side dies on the battlefield, Yuhabach's power will become stronger. The beneficiary is always Yuhabach. Yuhabach really set the standard. Kyoraku Shunsui looked a little sad. Facing such an opponent, he felt like there was a stone in his heart that could not be resolved. The video continues to play. The facts recounted by Hazard are similar to those analyzed by the Shinigami of Seirei. Every time a person falls, His Majesty will become stronger, and every time a person falls, His Majesty's life will be extended. For Your Majesty, war is the continuation of life technique. If you don't continue to absorb souls, one day, Your Majesty, you will be back to where you couldn't see with your eyes, couldn't hear with your ears, and couldn't even move. Body condition. A look of indifference appeared on Hazard's face. Your Majesty will not stop the war. There is no way to avoid the war. I am, and so are you. Just as the words mean, live for Your Majesty and die for Your Majesty. At this time, the sun slowly rises from the horizon. Hazard sighed, it's dawn, and it's time for Your Majesty to wake up. This world. Damn it, This Yuhabach deliberately created war to prolong his own life, right? Kurosaki Ichigo probably understands that everything Yuhabach does is self-interest. Although he could not understand who was the righteous and the evil between the Knights of the Star Cross and the first generation Gode 13,000s of years ago. After all, both sides aimed to eliminate hollows, but judging from the scenes played before, the first generation Gode 13 was killing people. When they were Quincy, they were completely evil people. On the other hand, the Quincy are more like the victims and the righteous side. Putting aside the war 1,000 years ago, Kurosaki Ichigo cannot judge, but in the war that Yuhabach wants to create now, he is definitely on the dark side. Ishida, your purpose has been seen through by Hazard, what should you do next? Inoue or Hime was a little worried about how Ishida Uryu could survive in the Invisible Empire. Ishida Uryu was a little silent, not knowing how to answer. At this time, the scene changed. Kurosaki Ichigo rushed to the Soul King Palace, and when he saw Yuhabach, he immediately roared at him. Are you here, Kurosaki Ichigo? Yuhabach turned his head slightly. Let me do it. Hazard took a step forward, trying to stop Kurosaki Ichigo, but a figure rushed in front of him and shot a spiritual light arrow. Seeing the attack coming, Kurosaki Ichigo immediately blocked the attack with Zangetsu. He looked up and saw Ishida Uryu standing next to Yuhabach. It was Ishida Uryu who struck that blow. Kurosaki-kun, did the thing you least wanted to see happen? Inoue or Hime outside the video looked at Ishida Uryu and Kurosaki Ichigo with a worried look on his face. Standing at two opposing points, a confrontation was inevitable, but she didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Don't worry, Inoue, no matter whether this guy really wants to stay with Yuhabach or not, I will beat him until he can't move and then bring him back. Kurosaki Ichigo smiled. HMPH, if you want to destroy Yuhabach, you have to get past me first. Ishida Uryu snorted coldly. He could understand what he was doing in the video. After all, only in this way could he vote on his opinions. Don't let me beat you down. Don't forget that at that time, I already had the sacred text. Ability. If you want to lie down, you must lie down. Return to the video screen. Ishida. Why did you? After seeing Ishida Uryu, Kurosaki Ichigo was very surprised. Go back, Kurosaki. Ishida Uryu's attitude was very firm. You can't stop His Majesty. What the hell are you talking about, Ishida? Go back, don't die in vain. Why are you here? I'm going to ask you again. Kurosaki Ichigo became anxious and yelled loudly. But in response to the cold rain of arrows, Ishida Uryu drew his bow and aimed it at Ichigo. Rain of light. Swish swish swish. Like a heavy rain, arrows of spiritual light poured down. Kurosaki Ichigo quickly blocked with attacks, while Inoue Orihime and Sato appeared. The crystal shield helps Ichigo block the attack. Ishida Uryu looked at the two of them, his expression unchanged, seeming to indicate his attitude. Ishida-san, Inoue Orihime stared earnestly at Ishida Uryu standing next to Yuhabach. Let's go, Uryu, Yuhabach whispered, have you finished saying goodbye? Yes, Ishida Uryu answered with his head lowered. This will be an eternal farewell between you, I understand very well. After saying that, Ishida Uryu left with Yuhabach and Hazard. Wait. What on earth is going on? Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Ishida Uryu's leaving figure and roared angrily. The endless doubts in my heart cannot be answered, you haven't answered my question yet. Speak, Ishida. Invisible Empire. That's enough, the pretense looks quite similar, Busby snorted. He still didn't believe that Ishida Uryu had truly joined the Invisible Empire. Zhao Zhao Zhao. Must have some strategy, and after finding a suitable opportunity, he will take action. Busby, you can't say that. Didn't you see that Ishida and Uryu took action against Kurosaki Ichigo? Masuko grabbed his hood and said naively. This is also called taking action? It's really funny. Busby has always hoped that Hazard could become the heir. Although the misunderstanding between the two has not been resolved, he will never accept Ishida Uryu. Asano said. After all, this is what His Majesty meant. Anyway, he has drank His Majesty's blood and gained the ability to write holy words. If he wants to disobey His Majesty again, he will definitely be punished. However, at this time, the picture continued to play. The spiritual king is inside. The Spirit King has been cut off, and Habach wants to take the opportunity to absorb the Spirit King's experience. But at this time, several spheres that looked like Buddhist beads came towards him. Boom! The sphere collided with Yuhabach's body and exploded. Chapter 183, the spiritual king was killed again, and the identity of the traitor was confirmed. Before that, Ichigo, I have never thought about asking you to obey my orders. Yuhabach looked at Kurosaki Ichigo and said, do you understand, because there is no need for me to do this kind of thing. All your will connect with my will. Kurosaki Ichigo was very surprised and shocked by Yuhabach's words, and asked, what do you mean by this? I mean, you will fight for me, as a Shinigami awakened, all the battles you experience are to improve your own power, and the improved power only exists to defeat Aizen. Yuhabach roared at Kurosaki Ichigo, so, after defeating Aizen, you lost your power. The reason why you can regain your power again is actually to obtain the slave master's sexual embarrassment in front of my eyes. What, I just defeated Aizen, and all my power disappeared? Kurosaki Ichigo's mouth twitched outside the video, feeling somewhat disappointed. After all, the final Zangetsu, the shape he changed with one move was really cool. And the power he possesses is the same as Aizen, beyond the dimensions of Shinigami, Hollow and even the Quincy. It turns out that after defeating Aizen, the calendar area ceased to exist. 760? Oh my, it turns out to be a one-time ability, no wonder it's so powerful. Abarai Renji glanced at Ichigo and said with a smile. Even if it's a one-time ability, so what, as long as it can defeat the villain, that's enough. Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes were firm. He was really worried that if this power existed for a long time, he would be regarded as an alien. Woolen cloth. Return to the video screen. That's nonsense, Ichigo, don't be fooled by him. Shihouen Yoruichi saw Kurosaki Ichigo's confused expression and quickly reminded him. What nonsense? Yuhabach roared, I don't need to think about it, in my eyes, you will continue to appear fighting for me. No matter what you think, every action you take will be in my favor, direction of development. All of them will, Ichigo, because we bleed the same blood. Shut up. Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't stand hearing it anymore and raised his hand to strike with a knife. However, Yuhabach easily blocked this level of attack. This has nothing to do with the blood of the Quincy. I said, I'm here to stop you. His eyes were firm. BEFB. Why? Why do you say stop? Who am I? I should be your enemy, right? Facing the man who killed your mother, can't I even say a word to kill you? Yuhabach stared at Ichigo. He said in a deep voice, you are really cowardly, Rigo. Ichigo was confused by what Yuhabach said, and suddenly an arrow shot over, hitting Yoruichi's shoulder. Everyone suddenly trembled and looked at the source of the arrow. It turned out to be Ishida Uryu. Ishida. Kurosaki Ichigo was stunned. Before Yoruichi could react, cracks had already appeared in the barrier. Oh no, Soul King. Ishida Uryu's attack directly kills the Soul King. Yoruichi angrily pulled out the arrows from his body and threw them to the ground. Ishida, what are you doing? Ichigo roared in confusion, stop it. Seeing that Ichigo's attention was attracted, Yuhabach decisively ran away. Ichigo didn't know it, but Yuhabach launched the attack without looking back. In the blink of an eye, Ichigo who was in the way of Yuhabach was bounced away, and he successfully arrived at the Soul King's side. This Ishida Uryu is really a traitor, he actually stopped Ichigo and me. Shihouen Yoruichi outside the video was very upset. Judging from Ishida Uryu's actions in the screen, he has completely integrated into the Invisible Empire. You know, the survival of the Soul King is related to everything. Ishida Uryu could have chosen not to stop him, but not only did he do so, he also injured Yoruichi. Oops, I really don't understand Ishida Uryu's inner thoughts, but after all, it is his own choice. He can only bear the consequences of what will happen in the future. Urahara Kazuki also lowered his head, his eyes turned gray, the current situation was not good for them. Most of the future that was previously reviewed was Yuhabach's unexpected Quincy battle. The status of Yuhabach and the Soul King was not clear. But now it is undoubtedly a blow to everyone. Return to the video screen. Yuhabach came to the Spirit King, and the previous scene appeared. Yoruichi threw the sphere. Yuhabach glanced at Yoruichi, who was very happy. When hit, the body hit by one ball will turn into dust, melt and disappear if it is hit by a second ball. But Yuhabach did not panic at all and shouted, Panita, Pakaja. Then, Panita appeared, and Yoruichi's arm twisted instantly. Yoruichi was shocked and broke into a cold sweat. What's going on? What's going on with this power? But Yuhabach did not answer. With a wave of his hand, Yoruichi flew away, and then he immediately caught the Soul King. Seeing Kurosaki Ichigo step forward to block him, Ishida Uryu suddenly shot an arrow, forcing him to dodge and block. Well done. Yuhabach exaggerated Ishida Uryu, and then he began to absorb the power of the Soul King. Don't hinder his majesty. Kurosaki. Ishida Uryu glared at Ichigo. I ask you, what are you doing? Ishida. Kurosaki Ichigo is going crazy and has no idea what Ishida Uryu is doing. Sato and Inoue Orihime also stared at Ishida Uryu, somewhat at a loss. Everyone, please don't move. Yulong raised the sacred destruction, his face as cold as a cellar. If anyone moves, I will shoot. Ichigo didn't take it seriously and moved his steps to continue to stop Yuhabach. The next second, an arrow was shot. I already said I can shoot, Uryu said without mercy. Are you kidding? Do you know why we are here? I heard, and I'm here to stop His Majesty, right? I said, I won't let you get what you want. Ichigo tried hard, wanting to give Uryu a good beating. Don't you know, if we don't just stop him, everyone will disappear, whether it's Soul Society, the present world, or Hueco Mundo. Do you think I know nothing, just standing here? You know, Ichigo was even more surprised. Why did he know that this would happen, and why did he still help Yuhabach? You also know the reason why we are here? You also know the reason why we are fighting? If that's the case, why are you still standing here? Facing Ichigo's question, Ishida Uryu's expression changed slightly and he said calmly, Don't you know, because I am a Quincy. Chapter 184, Yua, who is full of eyes, scares everyone. Well, Ishida Uryu, your true purpose has been exposed now. Just because you are a Quincy, you helped Yuhabach who wants to destroy the world. Kurosaki Ichigo outside the video glared at Ishida Uryu. Dragon. Thinking about the scenes in the video, he became very angry. Ishida Uryu is considered a good friend of his, but what he did touched his bottom line. He couldn't imagine that if Ishida Uryu continued to fight against him, he would really kill him. How is it possible? I will never be loyal to Yuhabach. Ishida Uryu looked unhappy. He thought he had no way out, that's why he was like this. I choose to believe Ishida-san. Kurosaki-san, you should also believe in him, Orihime said with a sad look. I also want to believe him, but the images of the future have been played so clearly. What can I do? Kurosaki Ichigo was also desperate. Ishida Uryu stroked the frame of the mirror. Okay, if I really obey Yuhabach completely in the future, you can kill me now. Return to the video screen. At this time, the guards surrounded Inoue Orihime and the three of them. Gerald looked at the three of them with contempt and said sarcastically. What? I thought they were some great people who wanted to stop His Majesty. It turned out to be just a bunch of bastards. Just soldiers. There's no need for you to take action, guards. Ishida Uryu quickly stopped him after seeing the guards appear. He knew very well that if the guards joined the battle, the nature of the battle would change. Although he now has a hostile relationship with Kurosaki Ichigo and others, he has never made a killing move from beginning to end. He couldn't guarantee that the guards would do this. Then Ishida Uryu shot out a shower of arrows that filled the sky, causing the entire ground to collapse instantly. If a group of people like this fall down from here, everything will be over. Ishida Uryu wanted to solve it in his own way. However, at this time, Rijibaro raised his sniper rifle and shot Kurosaki Ichigo. Ichigo saw this and moved out of the way. I know what you want to say. If you fall from here, you won't be able to survive. Even if you can survive, there will be no way to come back up. Lee Gemba Luo looked at Ishida Yulong, seemingly revealing his inner thoughts. However, if he is killed before falling, that assumption is unnecessary. Ishida Uryu looked at Rijibalo out of the corner of his eye. All this was for His Majesty. Ha ha ha, well done, newcomer, I recognize you, Gerald laughed. Ishida Uryu ignored the guards. At this time, Yuhabach had completely torn off the Soul King's right arm, but his right hand did not accept his fate and quickly grabbed Yuhabach. Seeing this, Yuhabach was very angry and said, Right arm of the Soul King, do you want to devour me as a child? Since I can see through the future, can I still not see through the gap in history? Yuhabach grabbed the Soul King's right arm and destroyed it instantly. You are so far behind me now. He grabbed the Soul King's right arm and absorbed it into his body. Right arm, your power belongs to me. At the same time, Soul Society began to shake. Yuhabach made a decision. He wanted to take away everything from the Soul King. Putting an end to Seirei, Ishida Uryu stared at Yuhabach, seeming a little worried in his heart. I will seize the Soul King, fuse him, and devour him completely, in order to prevent anything from coming out to hinder me. He connected his power with the Soul King's right arm, and the powerful Ryotsu followed the black shadow, head straight down. At the other end, Tōshirō, who originally used the Soul King's right arm to maintain the stability of the three realms, suddenly fell to the ground. Seirei. The Soul King's right arm was absorbed by Yuhabach, so you. Kyoraku Shunsui looked at Jingju worriedly. Tōshirō naturally thought that this result was nothing more than that he lost the power of the Spirit King and returned to the original state, that is, died. If you really let Yuhabach absorb all the Soul Kings, then no one can stop him. Tōshirō did not care about his own safety, but was very worried about what they would do if something bad really happened. Captain, isn't Ichigo still there? As long as he is here, I believe that Yuhabach will not succeed so easily. Rukia looked at Tōshirō and said. Well, now we can only place our hopes on Kurosaki. Tōshirō nodded. Return to the video screen. Yuhabach, who had absorbed the power of his right arm, suddenly started to melt like a puddle of mud. In just a moment, these melted objects turned into countless life forms with eyes. These life forms resembled tadpoles and venom. In an instant, it covered Lee Gemba Luo on the side. Lee Gemba Luo was suddenly confused and didn't know what happened. At this time, Hazard appeared and explained, Don't panic, this is the torrent of the power of the Soul King. The power of the Soul King is released from the seal imposed by Shinigami, but this power cannot be fully absorbed, and eventually turns into a torrent. Passing through it flows outward through His Majesty's royal body. Please give me flowers, they will not harm you, because the enemy of the Soul King is the Shinigami. The scene changed, inside the Ice Palace. It seems it's over, Hazard said solemnly. Ishida Uryu and all the guards looked at him in shock. Your Majesty. He has taken away everything from the Soul King. The Soul King has disappeared from this world, Hazard said. Let's go. From now on, this will be a brand new world. He led Ishida Uryu and others to Yuhabach and said respectfully, Thank you for your hard work, Your Majesty. After absorbing the power of the Soul King, Yuhabach's body was flowing with an inexplicable black liquid, covering the entire room. This scene surprised Yaskin and others. Is it Hazard? Yuhabach spoke. His eyes were also covered in black liquid, and several eye-catching pupils appeared on them. After seeing the face of Yuhabach, everyone was shocked as if they had been given blood. Yaskin was frightened and took a few steps back. What's wrong? Calm down, Yaskin. Hazard asked Yaskin to stay calm. Yaskin stood there in a daze, thinking. What's going on? What's going on? Seeing His Majesty turning into a monster, doesn't that guy feel anything at all? He expressed surprise and incomprehension at Hazard's calmness. Is it scary? Yuhabach asked. Don't be so afraid. Sooner or later you will be like this. Ah. Speaking of which, the so-called excess power refers to this, right? Seirei. What the hell? Why did Yuhabach become like this after absorbing the Soul King? Is this still a human being? Kashiwamura Sajin's eyes widened, and he couldn't believe what was happening in front of him. This may be a manifestation of power. At this moment, Yuhabach has probably acquired unparalleled abilities. No wonder Ishida Uryu has not done anything to betray Yuhabach until now. Tōshirō frowned. The frown is entirely due to the crushing force. Before, Yuhabach told the Soul King that he was a child. Could it be that Yuhabach is the Soul King's child? Shubing was curious about this. If this is the case, Yuhabach himself should have the power of the Soul King. Rangaku's pupils narrowed slightly. I don't know. Yuhabach, the son of the Soul King, really fits the character of the founder of the Quincy. Now the entire Soul King belongs to him. I don't know what will happen next. Chapter 185. The true purpose is exposed and the real-world city is destroyed. This world. It's really scary. You can't look directly at Yuhabach's appearance. Kurosaki Ichigo grinned. The area above his eyes was covered with black liquid, and there were even many exposed eyes. It was extremely scary. Just like the infinite Sword Master, but Yuhabach does not have the heroic spirit of the Sword Master at all, but has an extremely terrifying aura. The Soul King has been absorbed, so, will we die? Inoue Orihime blinked, his heart beating fast. Hazard said in the video that this will be a whole new world. And do the original people, Shinigami, or Hollows, still exist? Even if the Soul King no longer exists, the world will not collapse so quickly, so there should be a way to stop Yuhabach. A flash of determination flashed in Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes. The plan to prevent Yuhabach from absorbing the Soul King has failed. He can now think of a way to stop Yuhabach. There is no other way but to kill him. That means Yuhabach must be killed, but if Ishida, who possesses the holy letter A, does not need to be on our side, our chances of winning are very small. Abarai Renji is also worried that the world will collapse. Ishida Yulong's eyes were dazed for a moment and he didn't say much. He had nothing to say now because he didn't know what he would do in the future. By the way, don't we still have Aizen? If it doesn't work by then, we can release Aizen from the seal and still have a chance to deal with Yuhabach. Inoue Orihime pinned his hope on Aizen. In response, Renji shook his head. No, even if Aizen really helps us, all the seals on him will not be lifted. The power to restrict Aizen is in the hands of Room 46. Renji knows exactly what those old guys are like. If he wants to release Aizen, even if the world is destroyed, he may not have a chance. There's no need to worry so much. As long as we fight together, I believe that with Shinigami's united strength, we won't necessarily lose to Yuhabach. Kurosaki Ichigo clenched his fists and cheered. The throne of Suya Palace. Did you become like this after absorbing the power of the Spirit King? Aizen frowned slightly when he saw Yuhabach's appearance. Of course, he also knew that this had something to do with Yuhabach's original ability, but the power possessed by the Spirit King was definitely no less than that of Hogyoku. It's not that Aizen has never thought about obtaining the power of the Spirit King, but he has not fully explored all the abilities that Hogyoku has, and for him, Hogyoku is enough. The video screen changed. Ishida Uryu enters the Ice Palace. You're back, Ishida Uryu. Hazard stood on the stairs, as if he had been waiting for a long time. You have a rather distressed expression, Hazard, Ishida Uryu said solemnly. You are the one, you look quite troubled. The two people usually don't show much emotion on their faces, but at this time, the other person's thoughts seem to be manipulated. Hazard continued, have you forgotten? At night, when your majesty goes to sleep, your majesty and I will exchange our powers and look into the future. What we see is all quite distressing. It's something. That's right, Ishida Uryu. Yulong was frightened by Hazard's cry. After keeping calm, he asked tentatively, did you see my betrayal? Why do you ask that? I didn't say anything. Hazard opened his eyes and stared at Ishida Uryu. Hazard's eyes turned out to have double pupils. Tōshirō outside the video was surprised. The first time he saw the same eyes was from Yuhabach. Turns out Hazard also has it. Captain, you have heard Hazard mention many times that when Yuhabach sleeps at night, he will exchange power with Hazard. His eyes now are Yuhabach's eyes. Rangaku explained. Does such a thing even exist? Omeda licked her lips, very surprised, and continued. It stands to reason that Hazard is the real heir, and since Ishida Uryu is recognized as the heir, he should be this power is transferred to him, not Hazard. Sui Feng took over. Maybe Yuhabach had doubts about Ishida Uryu and didn't fully believe him from beginning to end. It's possible. Rukia nodded. Did Yuhabach say before that Uryu had some kind of power above him? Maybe he was afraid of this. Return to the video screen. Facing the question raised by Ishida Uryu, Hazard answered seriously, why do you ask that? I didn't say anything. It's just, I found a lot of the things you placed everywhere in this real-world city. Hazard brought out many small pieces of wood. I don't remember placing such a thing. Ishida Uryu refused. Is that so? I have seen a device using small pieces of wood like this before. It is very similar to what was used on the handbag of misery that Ishida Sozuru took away. It is a component used to decompose and spread spirit particles. Hazard said calmly, Ishida Uryu, what do you want to do by placing this in the real-world city? Unfounded accusations. A groundless accusation. Then let's prove it. Hazard immediately pulled out his sword and pointed it at Ishida Uryu. Prove that you are not a traitor. Wait a minute, Hazard, Ishida Uryu shouted at him. However, at this time, Kurosaki Ichigo suddenly appeared. Not only Kurosaki Ichigo, Inoue Orihime and Sado also came here, the unexpected encounter, and complex emotions intertwined in their hearts. Ishida-san is not a traitor, he did something, Inoue Orihime outside the video cheered. Although she didn't know what Ishida Uryu's intention was to put those small pieces of wood, she could prove that there was some information that Uryu wanted to go to. There is no need to say it at all. Ishida Uryu stroked the frame of the mirror, showing a calm look. I just said, there is no way I am a traitor. You've hidden it quite well, and you performed well in front of Yuhabach. Kurosaki Ichigo also laughed, finally letting go of his worries. Ishida Uryu is not a traitor, which is great news for him. How can you deceive Yuhabach, who can see through the future without pretending to be more like him? Yulong said, but he also had some questions. Since Yuhabach could see through the future, why didn't he expose himself? Could it be that Yuhabach is like Aizen, knowing that Ichimaru Jin is a traitor, but still staying with him to see how he kills him? Yuhabach definitely does not have this kind of leisurely attitude. There is another possibility, which Ishida Uryu is more certain about, and that is, Yuhabach cannot see his future. But if that was the case, why did Hazard say that to himself? The video continues to play. It seems that Lord Kakuzu is here. Hazard smiled. What's wrong with this guy's eyes? Are they the same as Yuhabach's? Ichigo noticed the change in Hazard's eyes. You are so lucky, Ishida Uryu. Fate has given you the power to prove. Hazard's voice was joking. Let's prove it. Since you said you are not a traitor, then, here are all these people. Tie it to death. Before Ishida Uryu could react, Kurosaki Ichigo was the first to be shocked. He stared at Uryu, not knowing how the other party would respond. What answer will you give me? I will watch carefully, Ishida Uryu. Hazard's smile became more and more crazy. Uryu had no choice now. He drew his bow and shot an arrow at Ichigo. Ichigo took out Zanpakuto to block and rushed towards Ishida Uryu. What are you doing, Ishida? Is this what you want to do to a guy like that? Uryu said nothing, shook his arms, and used his bow and arrow to drive away Kurosaki Ichigo. The next moment, continued to shoot attacks. Ichigo could only dodge and the ground collapsed. Just when Ichigo was about to fall, Sado caught Zangetsu. But Sado's situation is also very bad. He is hanging by the gravel and may both fall at any time. At this time, Orihime took action and saved the two people with her light shield. Are you okay, Inoue? Well, luckily it was opened in time, and the shield was formed for 3 days. Orihime scratched his head in embarrassment and looked at Ichigo with a smile. Kurosaki is fine too. However, at this time, Ichigo's thoughts were all on Ishida Uryu. He frowned and looked solemnly. Tell me, Ishida, the reasons for you and those Quincy and the reasons for fighting us. What will you do if you hear this? If the reason is acceptable, it doesn't matter if you want to take action. I will beat you up and make you wake up. What if you can't accept it? Of course I'll beat you up. You're going to have to beat me up, what do you mean? The two of them looked like lovers flirting. Ha ha ha, these two are really good friends. Kyoraku Shunsui outside the video waved his hand. Ichigo must be convinced that Ishida Uryu will not rebel. Yes, but people are under the roof. Ishida Uryu must do this, maybe he can find a way to deal with Yuhabach. Jashiro nodded and said. However, Ishida Uryu in the video suddenly threw a disc-like pendant to Kurosaki Ichigo and explained. This is the key of the sun. Everyone in the Knights of the Star Cross is equipped with this ornament. As long as it is inserted into the metal plates called sun gates, placed throughout the real-world city, it can be moved between the sun gates everywhere. Yulong looked at the passage on the left and continued. Go left from here, there is a staircase leading to the underground. About 5 floors down from there, there is a sun gate that has been pre-arranged for invading the world. You guys just use it to return to the present world. I will stay and destroy this real-world city. Invisible Empire. Oh my, this Ishida Uryu is really a shameless traitor. Pepe pouted and cursed angrily. Thankfully, I believed that this guy was really loyal to his majesty before, but it turns out he is a wolf-hearted thing. Your Majesty has left his successor to him, and he is still not satisfied. You can't be too greedy, otherwise you will definitely end badly. Robert frowned. I have long seen that this guy does not truly belong to his Majesty. Masco scratched his head. You just don't believe me. James applauded on the sidelines. The choice of superhero is correct. Doctors are the most powerful. It's not that we don't believe you, Masco, it's that this guy's acting skills are so great. Asenath said in a deep voice. Look at the farewell between him and Kurosaki Ichigo that time. It was like they had severed all ties. Gerald cursed angrily. What the hell? I still recognize you. To be honest, I was wrong. This kind of traitor deserves to die. Just let me tear his hands off. It seems that Hazard has long seen that Ishida Uryu is a traitor. Is this a test for him? Lijibero looked at Hazard. Hazard remained indifferent, maybe, but since Ishida Uryu dares to betray him, I will never forgive him. This world. Ishida, you just act as an undercover agent. What do you mean by destroying the real-world city by yourself? Without me, do you still want to deal with the Quincy alone? Kurosaki Ichigo is 1.5 happy that Ishida Uryu is not the real traitor, but is it too much to let them return to the present world and leave the destruction to one of them? It's useless for you to be there. Only I can do it now. Ishida Uryu frowned slightly. Since he had been lurking for so long, he must have found some clues and methods. Ishida-san, we all know that you think about us, but if we work together, we will definitely do better than you alone. Inoue Orihime looked at Uda Uryu expectantly. Yulong held up his glasses and hesitated. Well, we'll see when the time comes. You probably won't be able to help. The video screen continues to play. Kurosaki Ichigo was shocked in place after hearing Ishida Uryu's decision. As long as the wooden wedges placed throughout the real-world city are activated and the spirits are reorganized, the real-world city will definitely collapse. Yulong has already made a strategy to deal with it. What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? Ichigo yelled at him. I knew you would say that, so I came here without telling you. Even if you don't do this, as long as we defeat Yuhabach, the real-world city will naturally collapse. It's useless. There is no way to defeat him. The time Ishida Uryu has been following Yuhabach has made him clearly realize that no one in the world can defeat Yuhabach. Do you have to do this? Ichigo asked. Yes, only I can do this. Ishida Uryu insisted. Honkai Wedge is inherited from my master and is made from the soul-scattering glove. Only my Ryotsu can activate it. Oh, Chapter 186, The Lustful Beast, Hazard's approval. I took action after careful consideration. There was no other way. Ishida Uryu's mood slowed down. If you understand, just leave quickly before Hazard notices it. I don't understand. When did you mean, before you noticed? Suddenly, Hazard's voice emerged like a dark shadow climbing on Yulong's back. He came from the darkness. I should have said, what answer will you give me? I will watch it carefully, Ishida Uryu. No, you can't go too far in your conversation, right? Lily Knight complained outside the video. Although she is not on Shinigami's side, she is not on Quincy's side. But if she had to choose between the two, she would choose Shinigami. Idiot, what does this have to do with distance? Stark glanced at Lily Knight and said, Hazard now has the ability of Yuhabach. Even if he is carrying him, he can see everything through the future. It's really abominable. This kind of ability is simply invincible. Zamari shook his head, seeing that this ability in the future was inherently buggy, and it was still in Yuhabach's body. Ishida Reign 14 Dragon is right, no one is Yuhabach's opponent, and it is impossible for him to be defeated. Even though he is Aizen's loyal minister, at this moment, he does not feel that the complete Hogyoku Aizen is Yuhabach's opponent. Kurosaki. Ishida Uryu in the video stood in front of Ichigo. I will stop him. You hurry up and go to the Gate of the Sun. Ishida, you, hurry up, it's still too late, didn't you hear me? Ishida Uryu's voice suddenly increased and he roared at Ichigo and the others. If it were any later, there would be no chance, I said. What answer will you give me? I will watch carefully. Hazard stared at Ishida Uryu and continued. The Sun Gate leading to the present world has been destroyed. What? Yulong felt incredible. When was it destroyed? Let me end this, Ishida Uryu. Before your majesty comes. Hazard slowly raised his hands, and the black image behind him rose like flames. It seems that we have no choice but to take action, Ishida. Ichigo knew that the battle was inevitable. But Ishida Uryu suddenly noticed something. Before his majesty wakes up? I see, Kurosaki. Have you noticed that his eyes are now the same as Yuhabach's? Uryu asked. Ichigo replied. Well, what's the problem? His ability will be exchanged with Yuhabach's power when Yuhabach enters sleep. Hearing this, Ichigo seemed to understand. Seeing Ichigo's reaction, Ishida Uryu continued. Yes, if that is the case, then Yuhabach no longer has the power of omniscience and omnipotence. The top of the real-world city is where Yuhabach lives. Go up, Kurosaki. Ishida. You do still plan to stay, don't you? Don't worry about it, Luo Li. Go quickly, it's not like we'll never see you again. It's so funny that at this time, you still say such sensational words, and Ishida Uryu is too confident. You may never see Kurosaki Ichigo again. Bambietta chuckled. Who is Ishida Uryu facing now? Hazard, who has omniscience and omnipotence, has a very small winning rate, right? Hazard, what I hate most in my life is a traitor. I hope you can teach this guy a lesson. Gerald looked at Hazard, a trace of cruelty flashing in his eyes. Hazard's expression did not change, and he just said, those who disobey his majesties will naturally be punished. Seirei, omniscient and omnipotent. Is this Yuhabach's ability to see into the future? Tōshirō frowned. It was incredible for him that this ability could be transferred to Hazard, but he could definitely use this characteristic to deal with Yuhabach. As long as you can kill Yuhabach before dawn, there is still a chance for everything. Ishida Uryu is quite responsible. I wrongly accused him of being a traitor before. I apologize to him now. Kashiwamura Sajin said with an apology on his face. Now the power of omniscience and omnipotence lies in Hazard, and it stands to reason that its ability is far superior to that of Ishida Uryu. But Uryu still chose to stay and serve as queen for Kurosaki Ichigo. This choice is admirable. Ouch, it's hard to see Captain Komamura apologize, Kurotsuchi Mayuri said with a sarcastic tone. Captain Nirvana, I just wrongly blamed others, but I didn't blame you wrongly, Kashiwamura Sajin grinned. Yeah, there's no need to argue about this kind of thing. Kiraku Shunsui stood up and stopped him. Return to the video screen. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Ishida Uryu like this, and couldn't help but smile with satisfaction on his face. Then he turned around and left without any hesitation. Hazard watched Kurosaki Ichigo leave without making any reaction. You have no intention of chasing them. Is this really okay? Ishida Uryu had some questions. 227. Don't ask me to repeat it, it's all in my eyes. Hazard narrowed his eyes slightly. They will die, so there is no need to chase them. Yeah? Ishida Uryu raised his hand, used the Spirit Sun to gather the sacred destruction, and said, however, this kind of thing will change in the future, right? It's really surprising, Ishida Uryu. There was a sharp edge hidden in Hazard's smile. You are completely different from before. Now you have an expression full of hope. Well, is the fact true? As hopeful as you think, let's not talk about it for now. Yulong said. You are surprised to see this, which means you have not seen me full of hope. It seems that your power is still far from omniscience and omnipotence. Hearing this, Hazard immediately drew his sword. Ishida Uryu's instant arrow attack. After a few rounds, Ishida Uryu was seriously injured. After a difficult shot of holy destruction, Hazard blocked it with his long sword. He found that it was dawn. What a pity. You couldn't take advantage of the night to kill me, isn't it beyond your expectation? The bruised Ishida Uryu leaned against the wall. Failed to kill. This is very strange to say. What is reflected in my eyes is a killed beast covered in blood. Chapter 187, B. World Harmony vs. A. Complete Opposition. Hearing this, Ishida Uryu smiled. This is the first time I heard someone compare me to a beast, which is very heroic, which is not bad. Hazard pointed out Ishida Uryu's mistake. I failed to kill him at night. This statement is wrong. Compared with His Majesty's power, my original power is more about fighting, especially against someone like you. An opponent who needs to correct his mistakes. Ishida Uryu seems to be no match at all. His body was so seriously injured, but Hazard was not injured at all. Tōshirō outside the video was a little worried about Ishida Uryu's condition. Because the battle on the screen flashes by, it is obvious that the battle lasts for a long time, but the process and results shown in the video are very simple, that is, Ishida Uryu, don't be violent. And Hazard has been using the power of Yuhabach. He has not used his own ability yet. I don't know what his holy writing ability is. Hinamori Momo looked curious. As a Quincy who can exchange abilities with Yuhabach, the ability of the holy words given to him is absolutely terrifying. Even more terrifying than those personal guards. Didn't he say that his ability is more suitable for fighting than Yuhabach's strength? I'm afraid Ishida Uryu will die. Omeda clasped his hands together and looked up to the sky to pray for Ishida Uryu. He knew that the outcome for Ishida Uryu would not be good. Although in terms of ability, Ishida Uryu is no match, but facing an enemy who is stronger than himself, choosing to fight him is worthy of respect. A flash of respect flashed in Kiraku Shunsui's light. Knowing that you will lose but still fighting is not stupidity, but faith. Return to the video screen. Hazard explains the issue of measurement to Ishida Uryu. People are all walking on a scale, weighing everything they live and encounter on the scale of right and wrong. At the same time, they keep moving forward, distinguishing what is right for themselves and what is wrong for themselves. The differentiated right, the fragments of Yumi piled up to look like a human being. And that look is who we are. Hazard looked at Ishida Uryu who fell on the ground. You should be the same, Ishida Uryu. But, I can't see this in you. You should make a choice after weighing everything on the scale, but I still can't see this in you. Ishida Uryu, who are you? Is it really what you want to risk your life for those superficial humans? Yulong propped up his body with his arms and said in a deep voice. You are really long-winded. You ask me who I am? How should I answer you for such a question? He pulled up his bow and arrow again and pointed it at Hazard. For me, the answer can only be obtained gradually after defeating you. I see. Can I ask you a question? Yulong pulled the bow and arrow but did not shoot. Hazard said nothing, acquiescing. Why do you want to ask me what kind of person I am? I don't think you will be interested in this. No, you should realize that my purpose is to help Kurosaki buy time to go to Yuhabach. Before raising this kind of question, even if it is just a second faster, you should defeat me as soon as possible and prevent Kurosaki from going to Yuhabach, right? Hazard said calmly. Don't ask me to repeat it many times. I have already seen the results. They will die. No matter how I deal with you here, I will not put His Majesty in crisis. See through? The future you see through will change, right? Just like you were surprised to see my changes. Yes, I am using His Majesty's ability. It is a borrowed ability after all, but Your Majesty is different from me. Hazard showed a strange sneer, Let me remind you the real horror of omniscience and omnipotence, it's not the ability to see through the future. What do you mean by that? Ishida Uryu's body trembled. Could it be that omniscience and omnipotence have other abilities? I will tell you after the battle is over. Come on, Ishida Uryu, put everything you have on the scales. What do you mean? Doesn't omniscience and omnipotence only have the ability to see into the future? What other abilities are there? Ishida Uryu outside the video frowned tightly. No wonder Hazard didn't panic at all. He seemed confident. I don't know, but judging from Hazard's calm expression, the result of omniscience and omnipotence should be certain. Kurosaki Ichigo can be sure of this, otherwise Hazard would not have stopped him. Things will definitely change in the future, just like Uryu helped us. Counting from the previous one, these should be 2 futures. Why is Hazard so sure that we will die in the future? A comprehensive my sister was very confused. Could it be that it's about changing the future? Sato was shocked, since the future is constant, then change the changing future into the future you want. Sato's words immediately stunned everyone. Could it be said that the ability of omniscience and omnipotence is to change the future? Ishida Uryu's body was shocked. In this way, Yuhabach is in an invincible position and cannot be defeated no matter what. Thinking of this, Ji-Hu and others trembled as if falling on ice. No, it's not that outrageous, right? Maybe your guess is wrong. The corner of Renji's mouth twitched. Although he agreed with this statement, he still wanted to keep some thoughts in mind. In the video screen, Hazard held the sword in one hand, and a shield with an invisible Empire logo prism appeared in his hand. Put it on your broken scale that continues to point to the dead end. My holy writing ability is B. World Harmony. It maintains world harmony by allocating misfortunes that occur within a designated range to the lucky ones. At the same time, it can also allocate all the misfortunes that happen to me. Unfortunately, use this substitute shield to block it. He stared at Ishida Uryu. You have no chance of winning, Ishida Uryu. There is nothing that I need to find out from you. Since you don't say anything, it doesn't matter. Let this end, etc. Ishida Uryu called to Hazuo, who was injured and lying on the gravel panting, and said slowly, don't you want to see my holy writings? Want to use boring reasons to delay time? If you could really use it to defeat me, you would have used it already, wouldn't you? Hazard disagreed, his face full of disdain. On the contrary, Ishida Uryu struggled to stand up, but a smile appeared on his lips. I think it's almost time. What do you mean? Hazard panicked. My holy text is A. Completely anti-independence. Chapter 188, Hazard betrayed. Everyone is a traitor? One is holy word A and the other is holy word B? Outside the video, Omeda's pupils shrank in shock. You need to know that these 2 letters are the first and second letters in order. Let's not talk about what the power is, but it will definitely not be weaker than all the power of holy words that has ever appeared. By allocating the misfortunes that occur within the designated range to the lucky ones, we maintain the coordination of the world. At the same time, we can also block all the misfortunes that happen to us with the substitute shield. Isn't this ability a bit no solution? Rangaku sighed. No wonder it's called world harmony. Even luck can be adjusted. What else can be done? It's too scary. Is this Hazard, who has a higher status than the guards? How can this guy you watch grant such powerful power? Xu Bing was completely shocked. Abilities such as mass killing and prison are still understandable. After all, there are ways to deal with it, but the harmony of this world sounds invincible. How can Ishida fight now? Rukia's eyes were filled with worry. Ishida Uryu's holy script is A, which is completely reversed, but I don't know what effect this ability will have yet, but if he could defeat 583 Hazworth, he would not stay until now. Hinamori Momo said, just like Hazard said, there is no need for Ishida Uryu to drag himself until he is bruised and bruised. But why did Ishida Uryu say that he was waiting for this opportunity? Could it be that the complete reverse stand can only be used under certain circumstances? Tōshirō was curious. This world. It turns out to be the initial letter A. Ishida, your holy writing ability should be quite good. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Ishida Uryu and smiled. Yulong's expression in the picture is very relaxed, and he seems to have a way to deal with it. Otherwise, he would not be so calm and let himself go to find Yuhabach. After all, I am considered the heir. If Yuhabach gives me power, I will definitely not be rubbish. Although Ishida Uryu doesn't know the nature of complete anti-reliance yet, he has determined that this ability can definitely fight Hazard. Return to the video screen. Wow. After Ishida Uryu revealed his holy words, Hazard was wounded all over his body and blood spurted out. Hazard was stunned. This was completely without warning. You must know that his ability is to transfer misfortune to the shield, but the damage he just suffered is actually reflected on his body. There wasn't even any chance for him to use his abilities. Invisible Empire. What's going on? Why was Hazard suddenly injured? Masco scratched his head and said he couldn't understand. Hazard sat at the top in a daze, his face, which had remained calm, twitching a few times at this moment. Something's wrong. It's completely counterintuitive. Haven't you noticed that the injuries on Hazard's body are exactly the same as those on Ishida Uryu before? Is it damage transfer? Muscular Belsi frowned. The results of careful observation allowed him to find abnormalities. Well, it seems that it really transfers the damage. In this case, it would be much more reasonable for Hazard to think that the world reconciliation did not work. Asina nodded. What is this? Hazard in the video was covered in wounds and in great pain. Ishida Uryu explained, completely inverse, reversing what has happened between two designated points. At the same time, he, who was originally bruised, had already returned to normal. This time it's a simple matter of reversing my inner injuries. I see, you have such outstanding abilities. No wonder His Majesty is becoming more and more interested in you. If your power is to reverse what happened, then you may be the only one who can resist His Majesty's power. Ha! Swader said while covering his wound. Reverse what happened? Ishida, your ability is a bit pervert. Kurosaki Ichigo, Befi. Outside the video was a little surprised. This ability sounds more buggy than Hazard's world reconciliation. Well, it's okay. Ishida Uryu stroked the frame of his glasses, and the expression on his face that he wanted to smile but couldn't hold back was laughable. Starting to pretend again. Abarai Renji curled his lips. Ishida Uryu in this state was the Ishida Uryu he was most familiar with. Sato continued. Ishida's ability seems to be very restrained by Hazard's world attunement, making it impossible for his ability to have an effect. Sato, not only can you restrain Hazard, but with my ability, no ordinary person can fight me. Ishida Uryu is not bragging, even if he only knows part of the ability to transfer injuries in the video, this is enough to stand at the top of the combat power. That's true. In this case, there will be a way to deal with Yuhabach. Kurosaki Ichigo felt much more relaxed. He didn't know what the outcome would be if he went to look for Yuhabach alone, but it would definitely not be good. If Ishida Uryu has this power, maybe we can succeed. Invisible Empire. What do you mean, Hazard? Do you want to betray His Majesty? Gerald stared at Hazard, not understanding what he meant in the video. Does he want to use the power of Ishida Uryu against Yuhabach? Nonsense. Hazard glanced at Gerard coldly. There is no best, you'd better not do anything to betray His Majesty, Lee Gembaluo said. Return to the video screen. After Ishida Uryu heard Hazard's words, he was suddenly shocked and asked. What do you mean by this? Do you mean that it is the 9 emperors who are omniscient and omnipotent? Hazard said lightly. As you understand it, for me, keeping you here is the right thing to do. Yulong ran away without saying a word. Hazard did not move, but he did not allow Ishida Uryu to leave like this. Do you think I will let you leave? Kai. While running, Ishida Uryu was suddenly injured and staggered to the ground. Although your complete counterattack is excellent, it conflicts with my ability to reconcile the world. As I said before, it can distribute misfortunes, and at the same time, it can block all the misfortunes that happen to me with the substitute shield. Hazard raised his shield and continued. To put it simply, this will be the result. The luck you gave me physical trauma will turn into the same amount of misfortune and befall you. Give it to the misfortune on my body will be transferred to this substitute shield. Then it becomes a greater misfortune and befalls you. As he spoke, Ishida Uryu's injuries worsened, and he roared in pain, like a tamed beast, unable to make any struggle. Chapter 189, Sacred. We are friends. Ah, the plot has been reversed. Outside the video, Omeda felt like she was on a roller coaster. Wasn't Hazard killed instantly by a complete reverse stand? Moreover, the injuries on Ishida Uryu's body disappeared, so why was he injured again in an instant, and the injuries became much worse? Both abilities are very buggy. Ishida Uryu transfers damage, but Hazard can control luck and misfortune and attach them to the other party. Rangaku said, almost getting confused. If two people keep using the Holy Word ability on each other, will the damage be transferred all the time, back and forth, over and over again? Until the last moment, no one can be sure who the final winner will be. Shu Bing sighed, feeling an inexplicable sense of panic in his heart, because the strength gap between himself and the two parties in the video was too big, let alone him. Even the Shinigami present are not the opponents of these two people. I can't tell if Hazard really wants to betray Yuhabach. Didn't he propose before that only Ishida Uryu's ability can deal with Yuhabach? Why is he still trying to stop Ishida Uryu now? Hinamori Momo is a bit puzzling. Is she repeatedly jumping on the edge of betrayal? Invisible Empire. It seems that we have worried too much. How could Hazard betray His Majesty? Masco scratched his head and apologized for his previous worries. Yes, before Ishida Uryu came, he has always been His Majesty's heir. Although Ishida Uryu came and took away his position, he is definitely not a petty person. Bertie also nodded. Hazard remained indifferent and said nothing more. Because he knows that the power he possesses is world harmony, and following Yuhabach is not his own choice, but a balanced choice. In other words, there is only one traitor, Ishida Uryu, right now? Giselle waved her hand. Apparently he didn't know that he would also betray Busby and others in the future. Yes, who dares to betray His Majesty, except outsiders, Masco said excitedly. Return to the video screen. Hazard looked at the bruised Ishida Uryu, as if predicting the future in his mind. I have said before, you have no chance of winning. Ishida Uryu gasped for air and used his remaining strength to get up from the ground. Aren't you still determined to give up? The look of lingering but not admitting defeat shocked Hazard. You are a smart man, whether it is me or His Majesty, this fact, you should understand in your heart. I said before that I can't see this in you, but now I take it back. Hazard slowly raised his sword and pointed the blade at Ishida Uryu, who was propped on the ground. You. It's so similar to those extremely stupid human beings. Can you still move? Hazard asked. You said I look a lot like Kurosaki and the others, right? Ishida Uryu's breathing became louder and louder. I think that so far, I have been calm and acted on the scale you mentioned. However, because Kurosaki is an idiot, I can't fight calmly and my mind is full of thoughts. Go and help. Inoue is also a fool, Sato is also a fool, Kuchiki is also a fool, Abarai is also a fool. Seirei. Rukia Kuchiki was speechless after seeing Ishida Uryu's words and deeds. It's okay to call Kurosaki Ichigo an idiot, why bother yourself? Good guy, not only myself, but also Chun. He scolded me twice. Rukia, Ishida Uryu is quite funny, he doesn't treat you as outsiders at all and just scolds you. Omeda looked at Rukia with a smile. Rukia laughed awkwardly, who knows what that guy thinks like this? In his eyes, I'm afraid everyone is a fool. This world. Ishida, who are you calling an idiot? Kurosaki Ichigo and Renji said in unison, glaring at Ishida Uryu. Watching this, Ishida Uryu was a little frightened. He wanted to quibble, but what he said in the video was very clear, he was just cursing. Sato and Inoue or Hime originally wanted to help Ishida Uryu speak, but in the end, they were both scolded. Ishida, even if you scold us, why did you scold Inoue too? Sato asked inexplicably. Yes, Ishida-san. Inoue or Hime looked at Ishida Uryu eagerly, wanting to wait for a reply. You know, I definitely don't think so in my heart, although I said it out loud, I am definitely telling Hazard. Ishida Uryu said, and he couldn't make it up, please give me flowers. Return to the video screen. Ishida Uryu clenched his fists, if you think of me as the same as those idiots, I'm very happy. Hearing this, Hazard was very puzzled. You mean happy? I never planned to ask about your feelings from the beginning. I don't think being with them will do you any good, that's what I mean. Can being with them make you grow? The few years you have been with them are not as good as the growth you have brought to you in the short moment when His Majesty gave you power. If you judge your companions by improving each other, then the one you should bet your life on is not them, but His Majesty. Ishida Uryu frowned. You said you use a scale to measure and make a choice, right? Then I used the scale to measure and chose to be with them, but there was no stake or anything in it, it's right and wrong. Because we are friends, Ishida, I blamed you wrong. Inoue or Hime outside the video suddenly felt guilty. It turned out that Ishida Uryu said they were idiots, but it was not a derogatory meaning. He can only be said between friends. That sounds pretty pretentious, Ishida. Kurosaki Ichigo was secretly happy, with a faint smile on his lips. Because they are friends, he is very happy even if his friend is a fool. He chose his friend instead of Yuhabach. It's quite disgusting to shout. Ishida Yulong's eyes dropped, somewhat shy. They can still say this kind of thing behind Kurosaki Ichigo's back, but in front of these people, they really can't say it. Return to the video screen. Hearing Ishida Uryu's words, Hazard's face was full of gloom. He clenched his sword and said, really, I understand. While you have His Majesty's approval, you still don't intend to give up anything, right? In that case, at least give up your life, Ishida Uryu. Hazard roared angrily, raised his sword high like a gate, and pointed it at Ishida Uryu. At the moment when Hazard was slashing, a beam of golden light was pulled out from his body and flew towards the sky above the real-world city. The video ends here. Ishida Uryu vs. Hazard, interrupted, failed. Ding. Chapter 190. Despair, put your hope on that man. What the hell? It's obviously a failure. Why is it showing interruption? Abarai Renji grinned. Although he didn't want to see Ishida Uryu fail, the result was already obvious. He was defeated by Hazard's world attunement, and if Hazard had not had zombie fighting abilities for some reason, perhaps Ishida Uryu would have died. Although it is an interruption, isn't there a parenthesis that says failure? Kurosaki Ichigo said lightly, this is more objective. Failure is not failure, but I didn't expect this guy's world harmony to restrain my complete opposition. Ishida Uryu stroked the frame of his glasses and shook his head helplessly. You must know that his holy text is A, and Hazard's is B. A didn't beat B. This is really surprising. 660. There's nothing you can do about it. After all, the ninja world can mobilize the balance of the world. If you get hurt in return, others will inflict misfortune on you, Renji said. Of course, Ishida Uryu was not condemning his inferior abilities, but was a little curious as to why Hazard suddenly appeared in that situation. Is it holy? He felt inexplicably familiar with this scene. When his mother Katagira was sanctified, even though he was not around, he also learned some information. Holy. Isn't it Yuhabach's power absorption of the mixed blood Quincy? Hazard should be a pure blood Quincy, right? Or should we say that all the members of the Star-Crossed Knights are pure Quincy? Renji blinked, not understanding. Besides, wasn't Hazard the right-hand man of Yuhabach? Why was he also sanctified? I don't quite understand this. Maybe Yuhabach needs a stronger power, so he absorbs Hazard's power. Ishida Uryu analyzed seriously. That's my credit. Kurosaki Ichigo was secretly pleased. Because it was he who went to look for Yuhabach, which means he was the one who fought against Yuhabach. The person who can push Yuhabach to this point may be him, Kurosaki Ichigo. You are really good at putting yourself on the line. Ishida Uryu glanced at Ichigo. Urahara store. Oops, I feel like things are heading towards an irreversible point. Urahara Kazuki lowered his head and looked slightly gloomy. He wanted to fight to the end, and it would be best if he could fight Yuhabach in person. But unfortunately, he ended up fighting Yasuke. Hazard was sanctified, he saw it clearly and understood why Yuhabach did what he did. Ichigo, can the energy contained in your body be enough to stop Yuhabach? Urahara Kazuki can only pin his hopes on Kurosaki Ichigo now. He also discovered in the video that Kurosaki Ichigo's Zanpakuto has become a double sword. Although he didn't know the reason why Zangetsu split into a long and a short double blade, he could guess that Kurosaki Ichigo's transformation and growth could compete with Yuhabach. Invisible Empire. Your Majesty, Hazard was silent for a moment, not understanding why Yuhabach would use holiness on himself. But he knew that this situation must be Yuhabach's last resort. If sanctification really happens, then not only his power will be absorbed, but other members of the Star-Crossed Knights will definitely be absorbed as well. It's really abominable. With His Majesty's power, do you still need to use sanctification on us? Gerald naturally knew that Hazard was only a part of sanctification. As long as they are still alive, they must be the objects of sanctification. I was very dissatisfied with Yuhabach's behavior in my heart, but I didn't dare to say it out, so I could only keep it in my heart and feel depressed. Your Majesty already has omniscience and omnipotence, so there is no need to use holy on us. Besides, we are all very loyal to His Majesty. We are not traitors like Ishida Uryu. Masuko defended himself and his teammates, but after saying this, he shut up. He is not really stupid, and he understands the character of Yuhabach. Yuhabach can definitely do this kind of thing. If Yuhabach heard it, I would probably be too cold to wait until the day when I was sanctified. Shout, I won't die like this. If such a day comes, what is your position? Busby glanced at the faces of the team members. Their current position is definitely on the side of Yuhabach, and they want to let Yuhabach lead them to the new world. But if holiness is used to sacrifice them, they will definitely not be willing. Asano was trembling all over. He didn't want to die in sanctification, but he thought of Yuhabach's terrifying face and trembled. I follow all your Majesty's choices, even if it is sanctification. I feel at ease too. Then you go and die yourself. I don't want to. Bambietta glanced at Asano. Although it was a very dangerous thing to discuss whether to betray Yuhabach or not, she knew that the people present would not reveal anything to Yuhabach. Little Bumby, I'm yours, Zansi, Giselle grinned. Well, don't get hung up on things that didn't happen. His Majesty will definitely make a decision that satisfies all of us. We just need to follow his will, Hazard said in a deep voice. Seirei, this is quite interesting. Hazard was actually sanctified, and Ishida Uryu saved a life. Does this mean that Hazard lost his power? Sajin Kashiwamura was a little confused. Why did Yuhabach do this? Hazard was fighting for him. If even Hazard can't escape, then the other 2.6 Quincy will definitely not be able to avoid being sanctified. This is not a good thing for us. Shu Bing looked excited. This reduces the enemy's combat power from 100 to a king. Kira frowned and made a cross. Hisaki, these powers will eventually return to Yuhabach's body. Think about it, what will happen when all the powers are gathered together? Yuhabach will become more powerful and unbeatable. The enemy's combat power does not decrease from 100 to 10, but increases from 100 to 1000. Yes, Yuhabach is even more difficult to deal with. I'm afraid no one in the world can defeat him. Kiraku Shunsui held his forehead with his hands, his face full of sadness. Can we only place our hopes on that man? Chapter 191, the 12th one is revealed, the weakest one in the guards. However, at this time, Ishida Uryu's inventory has ended. His name suddenly appeared on the combat power gold list. The 13th position is already at the top of the combat power. Although Ishida Uryu's abilities come from the holy words given to him by Yuhabach, this does not affect his ranking at all. Soon, the next person's name appeared on the big screen. Number 12 on the combat strength list, Yasuke Nakroval. Name: Yasuke Nakrovar. Power: Invisible Empire. Identity: Quincy. Ability: Holy Word D. Death Dealing, IX. 95 Defense, 95. 95. 96 Vitality, 97 Ryatsu, 97. 2,500,000 Yasuke's inclusion on the list was expected. After all, its abilities have been announced, and its combat capabilities have also been demonstrated to everyone. Seirei. Lethal Dose Yasuke, there seems to be no problem with this, Tōshirō said lightly. As Yuhabach's personal guard, 14 ranked 12th is completely reasonable. Compared to other personal guards, Yasuke is indeed weaker. Kashiwamura Sajin nodded in agreement. His ability is very special. If it weren't for Urahara Kazuki, it would be difficult for others to defeat him. Kurotsuchi Mayuri on the side was a little unhappy when he heard this. Captain Komamura, why is it that without Urahara Kazuki, it would be difficult for the others to defeat Yasuke? If I were here, I would never have to pay such a heavy price to defeat him. Unlike Urahara Kazuki, not only did Arankar Grimjow seek help, but he also ended up in the poison ball. his life and death unknown. Although Nilu went to rescue them later, the final result of the duel was a tie at best. Yes, Captain Nirvana, you can defeat Yasuke, right? Kashiwamura Sajin didn't want to talk to Kurotsuchi Mayuri, so he followed his words and agreed. Invisible Empire. I'm only ranked 12th, only one place higher than that traitor. Yasuke crossed his arms with a disdainful expression on his face. This was not what he expected at all. In his opinion, he should at least be in the top 10. The result was ranked 12th. Yasuke, 12 is already very high, aren't you satisfied? Mask pouted. He wanted to be ranked 12, but his own strength did not allow it. I can't help it. It may be because of my failure in the battle against Urahara Kazuki and Grimmjow. My wood expulsion name has dropped a bit. Yasuke didn't think there was any problem with his ability. Failure is normal. It is not a measure of combat effectiveness. Therefore, the 11 people in front of you are much better than you. Bambietta directly exposed Yasuke's lies. Yasuke, your attribute panels are all average. None of the values are very high, and none of them are very low. Compared to the previous people with special abilities, you just have some special abilities. Pepe grinned and said, if Urahara Kazuki's panel is combined with your holy writing ability, the combat effectiveness is estimated to be able to enter the top 10. Shut up and don't mention Urahara Kazuki to me. I really hate that guy. Although I am only one rank higher than Ishida Uryu, my combat power is 300,000 more than him. Yasuke, there is a hint of excitement in the disappointment, because the combat power is much better than the previous one. A full 300,000, that's the span. At this time, Yasuke's record appeared on the big screen. Open black lens bracket Askin Nakluvar vs Urahara Kazuki, interrupted, close black lens bracket, Askin Nakrovar v Grimmjow, failed. Urahara store. What the hell, why is this the result? Urahara Kazuki's stomach ached when he saw this slashing energy. Why was his battle with Yasuke interrupted, and then his battle with Grimmjow failed? Wasn't it because his own fighting delayed Yasuke that Grimmjow succeeded? Even the tactics were arranged by him, but in the end, Grimmjow took away all the results. It should be Yasuke versus the store manager in Grimmjow, with a failure at the end. Xiaoyu also felt that this result was outrageous, and it would be more reasonable for the two of them to win together. Urahara Kazuki sighed, forget it, just let it be interrupted. It's not a big deal anyway. What I do is the key. Suya Palace. It's ridiculous. Is this the 12th ranked? Trash? Grimmjow felt confident in an instant. He had never seen himself kill Yasuke before, so he was very scared of Yasuke's lethal ability. But now, it has been proven that he was the one who killed Yasuke in the future, and now he doesn't take this guy ranked 12th at all. Grimmjow, I've never seen you say that before. Neutra shook his head, looking at Grimmjow's sullen look, and said with disdain. You don't care what I was like before, just say it doesn't matter. Grimmjow waved his hand. Do you know who is the strongest in Espada now? Yami was annoyed when he heard this. Grimmjow, don't think that just because you won by sneak attack, you think you were great. In terms of hard power, I am above you. To say it was a sneak attack is to praise him. At that time, Yasuke was exhausted from entangled with Urahara Kazuki, and 273 had long lost his concentration. If it had been anyone else, the sneak attack would have been successful. Grimmjow applauded after hearing this. Yami, you are awesome. You can kill Yuhabach. Yami bared her teeth and said, crazy. Open black lens bracket Askin Nakroval vs Shihuan Yushiro. Victory, close black lens bracket. After the defeat, it was finally possible to look at the past victory record. But this opponent looks somewhat weak. Really, we shouldn't announce our results against this kind of opponent. Even if we win, I feel ashamed. Yasuke doesn't care whether he wins or not, but his opponent is too hot, and it drags him down a lot. Ha ha ha. Why don't you give me victory? Moss laughed. He would be very happy if this victory was included in his record column. However, at this time, pictures began to play on the screen. The scene of the confrontation between Yasuke and Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Oh no, you are really taking too much time. I won't fight. Yasuke looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri and put his hand on his forehead, feeling a little headache. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was confused. It's too time-consuming. What do you mean? I mean, there are so many ways you'd have to try to kill you. Chapter 192, Guards vs Monk. Waiting to be killed instantly? Yasuke looked very impatient. I'm not good at doing delicate and deadly tasks. It's best to do it all at once. You can go and fight with others. I'm leaving. After saying that, Yasuke turned and left. Seirei. Kurotsuchi Mayuri couldn't help laughing when she saw this scene. This Yasuke is really a coward. He doesn't even have the courage to fight me. He must know that I can kill him. Kashiwamura Sajin glanced at Kurotsuchi Mayuri and said, Captain Nirvana, he means that you are more difficult to kill, not that he cannot defeat you. You're the only one who talks a lot. Kurotsuchi Mayuri did not look good on Kashiwamura Sajin at all. Of course he understood what Yasuke meant, but if the two of them really fought, it was hard to say who would win and who would lose. Anyway, this guy doesn't dare to fight me. Instead, he fights Urahara Kazuki. Do you understand what this means? Kurotsuchi Mayuri chuckled. I understand. Rangaku raised his hand as if answering the teacher's question in class. It's because Yasuke's opponent is Shihuan Yoriichi, and Urahara Kazuki and Yoruichi have a very close relationship. That's why Yasuke got into a fight with Urahara Kazuki. When Kurotsuchi Mayuri heard this, her whole face turned dark. Good boy. Who made you so honest? Ahem, it's because I'm better than Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Kurotsuchi Mayuri cleared her throat, full of confidence. Everyone was silent because they were afraid that they would leave. Invisible Empire. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is indeed a difficult character to deal with. It's normal for Yasuke not to want to fight him. Pineda hesitated, and the question he wanted to express was expressed by Rijibaro. Pineda's abilities are far more special than Asuke's. Even with such an opponent, Kurotsuchi Mayuri has a way to fight against him. He definitely has the means to deal with Yasuke's lethality. I actually think Kurotsuchi Mayuri is more powerful than Urahara Kazuki. Masuko scratched his head and said. Because of the results of the battle between Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Pineda, and the result of the battle between Urahara Kazuki and Yasuke, Masuko had this question. The former has clear victory, while the latter needs help from outsiders. Masuko. Do you know the enemy better than your majesty? Asina glanced at Masuko as if looking at a fool. Urahara Kazuki is the person who gave the special command the means to fight. And Kurotsuchi Mayuri, your majesty, you don't take it seriously at all, right? Ace is right. Robert nodded in agreement. Not only did Yuhabach recognize Urahara Kazuki, but Aizen Sosuke also believed that Urahara Kazuki was a person whose intelligence far exceeded him. Such Urahara Kazuki, Kurotsuchi Mayuri are nothing compared. The screen continues to play. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at Yasuke's leaving figure without any reaction. Aren't you going to chase me? Yasuke, who had taken 2 steps, suddenly stopped, turned to look at Kurotsuchi Mayuri behind him, and asked. I'm not interested, you can go wherever you want. The answer given by Kurotsuchi Mayuri was also very simple. He spread his hands and said, I also need some time to analyze your Ryotsu, or... You want me to step into your field, and you are deliberately irritating me, woolen cloth? How terrible. Yasuke narrowed his eyes slightly, and his inner thoughts had been guessed by Kurotsuchi Mayuri. His inner feelings were the same as his words, it was really scary. Sure enough, you can't show off your abilities easily, Yasuke shook his head. But suddenly, a wave of Ryotsu came, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri and others were startled. This Ryotsu is Sui Feng. Kurotsuchi Mayuri felt it instantly, Sui Feng's Ryotsu. Well, it seems like she defeated her opponent without Bankai. As expected. Shinigami celebrate each other. The captains who have taken away Bankai will definitely find a way to fight without Bankai within a period of time, just as His Majesty expected. Yasuke waved his hand, and everything was going as expected, which made him very comfortable. You are so smart, you should be able to understand the meaning of my words, right? He said to Kurotsuchi Mayuri. As expected, it means that while you master this skill, it has also become your Achilles heel. At this time, open black lens bracket Yasuke Nakluvar vs Kurotsuchi Mayuri, interrupted, close black lens bracket. No, is this considered a battle? Urahara Kazuki lowered his face and was speechless. These two guys are obviously fighting over words. There was a war without even taking action, although the interruption results are reasonable. But he paid a heavy price to defeat Yasuke. Judging from this result, it is far less direct than Yasuke fearing Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Oh my god, really, this conversation has humiliated you. Yoruichi gloated and laughed. Shout, what's the big deal? It's a good thing the two didn't fight. Otherwise, that guy Kurotsuchi Mayuri would be defeated, and Pineda would have no one to deal with. Urahara Kazuki hides his embarrassment, however, at this time, the scene changed. In the Spirit King's palace, in front of the 3 captains of the Zero Squadron. Senju Maru had just impaled and killed Nihonzo Wazo. I forgot to take out the sewing needle. It is my bad habit to not be good at healing wounds. I should apologize for the insufficient explanation. Senju Maru looked at Yuhabach with a hint of cruelty in his eyes. In this way, the blade can finally stab you. Yuhabach stared at Senju Maru. Do you really think so? With the Spirit King's divine soldiers as our opponents, the strength of my holy soldiers is still insufficient, so you will be my personal guard's opponents. Immediately afterwards, standing behind Yuhabach, Gerard, Lijibaro, Pineda and Yasuke lifted their How hats and revealed their true faces. Seirei, isn't this what happened after the tortuous battle between Senju Maru and Team Zero? Rukia's eyes widened. This was also what happened after she went to the Soul King Palace to practice. You must know that Senju Maru, the Zero Division, is only ranked in the early 20s. Yasuke was ranked 12th, a difference of nearly 10 places. The rest of the guards will only have a higher ranking. This kind of battle may not be on the same level. Oh my, is Yasuke going to fight Team Zero? Kiraku Shunsui waved his hand and couldn't help laughing. Although the lethality is very strong, the Zero Squadron does not only have Tōshirō and Senju Maru, captains with such abilities are not outstanding. If the monk appears, Yasuke will probably be killed instantly. Not only Yasuke, but everyone except Yuhabach will be killed instantly.